Chapter 787. In the afternoon, many online media and social media platforms had videos of Mu Jianfeng slapping Yi Kuan's woman unconscious, as well as the shameful information provided by Charlotte about Mu Jianfeng. For a time, the internet was in full swing, full of hubbub. Who could stop the fire of public opinion? Whoever could stop it would be burned to death. That night, Charlotte received a call from Fanfan. "You're really something. I think you should change your career to be a director. It's a waste of your talent to make weapons." Fanfan's voice was teasing, but also filled with joy. "Because of what you did, the report that was suppressed has surfaced again. I received news that the higher-ups have set up an investigation team to investigate. Mu Jianfeng's freedom has been restricted, and his passport has been confiscated." "So fast?" Charlotte said with a smile. "I thought this matter would ferment for a long time before it exploded. I didn't expect that he would be under control in just half a day." "Don't you like it so fast?" "Of course I like it. To me, it's another annoying fly. Actually, the main reason why Mu Jianfeng was dealt with so quickly was because of your new material plan. I've already submitted the report. The higher-ups are very happy, even excited. For them to touch you at this time, I'm worried about their IQ." Fanfan's voice was still so happy. "It's also because of you. Well, my phone is almost out of battery. Talk to you next time," Charlotte said. If they continued talking, it would become a long phone call. "Why are you in such a hurry? Don't tell me you have a date with a beauty? Are you jealous?" Charlotte lowered his voice. "I've already eaten your salty things. What's wrong with eating your sour things?" "Charlotte, the one you're dating is Longbing, right?" "I'm alone. I'm really out of battery." Charlotte hung up the phone and looked at Longbing, who was opening a bottle of red wine at the dining table. He said awkwardly, "She's just like her name, very annoying. It's good to have her help. I think she's quite feminine." Longbing said, "Well, let's not talk about her. Let's eat." Charlotte walked over. Longbing poured a glass of red wine for Charlotte and another for herself. When Charlotte sat down on the other side of the table, she walked around with a glass of wine and sat down next to him. Charlotte smiled and raised his glass. "Let's have a drink. I haven't had a drink at your house for a long time." Back then, he promised Longbing that he would stay one night at her house every weekend, but he didn't keep his promise. Every time he thought of this, he felt a little guilty and a little indebted to her. But Longbing didn't care about this. She clinked glasses with Charlotte and drank the wine in the glass. She could drink as well as her marksmanship. "Let me pour it for you." Charlotte took the wine bottle and refilled her glass. Longbing looked at Charlotte and suddenly said, "Do I not smell feminine?" Charlotte was slightly stunned, then he leaned over to her snow-white neck and sniffed lightly. "How is it not feminine? I just smelled it. It's fragrant. I especially like the smell on your body." Longbing rolled her eyes at Charlotte. "Are you kidding me? I'm talking about feminine, not the smell on my body." "What's that smell?" Xiaolei asked with a confused look. "I'm talking about." Longbing thought about it seriously. "Well, it's like the smell on Fanfan's body. It's especially charming and intellectual. Or like Shintu Tianin's body, especially noble and elegant feminine." Xiaolei laughed. "I say, what's up with you today? We've only had one glass of wine, and you're already drunk? You're you. If you become that kind of woman, you won't be the Longbing I know." "No, I want to try changing." "Do you think it's changing clothes? You can learn if you don't know. Don't torture yourself. Let's drink, and then." Xiaolei had a naughty smile on his face. Perhaps the mischievous smile on his face had a chemical reaction on her. She suddenly stood up from the chair, twisted her waist, and sat on Charlotte's lap. Her snow-white skin was so soft and bouncy. There was a flag in Charlotte's heart that had already begun to sway. "Don't you want to eat?" Charlotte said. "Don't interrupt." Longbing wrapped her arms around Charlotte's neck and looked at Charlotte lovingly. Is this feminine? Charlotte couldn't help but laugh. Long Bing glared at Charlotte. Don't laugh. I'm serious. Charlotte. Long Bing twisted her soft snow-white skin twice. How about this? Is it feminine? Charlotte bit his lip to prevent himself from laughing. However, when Long Bing made such an action, his special nerves as a man inevitably had a physical reaction. Long Bing quickly felt the change in Charlotte's body. She looked at Charlotte and said seriously, "You want to do something naughty?" Charlotte also nodded seriously. Long Bing kissed Xiao Lei's lip. Her hands were like skiing, taking away the chain-like bite with a whoosh. Dry wood meets fire. She was her. She was cold. She was an unapproachable iceberg. However, she also had wild, unrestrained, and passionate moments. She was like a volcano that could melt even the hardest rock into magma. She didn't need to change, and her charm was irresistible. A woman like her didn't need any femininity, but a woman like her could only be conquered by the man under her. The man under her was called Charlotte. The gun he made was the best gun in the world. The cannons he made were also the best cannons in the world. The night was long. There were many stories and positions in the city. The next morning, when Charlotte got up, Long Bing had already left. But she prepared breakfast for him. It was a box of Master Kong instant noodles. Charlotte sighed. A woman should treat herself better. How can she not eat regularly? After eating the instant noodles Long Bing made for him, Charlotte took out his phone and called Zhou Xiaohong. "Brother Lei Zi." After calling him brother, Zhou Xiaohong smiled on the other end of the phone. It was as if receiving a call from Charlotte was the happiest thing in her life. Women in the countryside knew how to be grateful. If Charlotte hadn't taken her in and let her work in the studio on the street, she might still be washing dishes in some restaurant. Everything she had now was given to her by Charlotte. She always had a grateful heart towards Charlotte. It's like this. Help me find a good aunt from your hometown. She must know how to cook and take care of people. Well, even if our company hired her, she will get her salary from our company. She only needs to take care of one person. Clean her room and cook for her. Charlotte said. No problem. We have a lot of aunties here. Many of them know how to cook and take care of people. Can I ask who to take care of? Long Bing. You've met her before. Oh, I see. Also, if you find her, we will also buy insurance and housing funds for her. Also, after she comes to the capital, she won't live in Long Bing's house. We will rent another house for her. Charlotte said. Well, Brother Lei Zi, when will you come to Sichuan? What's wrong? I haven't seen you for a long time. I miss you. I don't mean that. I just want to see you. Zhou Xiaohong looked very nervous. Charlotte smiled. When I'm done with my work, I will come to Sichuan. Take care of yourself. That's all. I'm hanging up. Goodbye, Brother Lei Zi. Zhou Xiaohong's voice was full of melancholy. After ending the call with Zhou Xiaohong, Charlotte left a note for Long Bing. Don't eat instant noodles anymore. I hired a nanny to help you clean and cook. Women should treat themselves better. I can't stay by your side to take care of you. Leave the nanny I hired for you. Don't refuse me. Long Bing gave him passion like fire, and he gave her gentleness like water. Even if she was a woman living in a storm of bullets, she still needed to be cared for and protected. After returning to the Thunder Horse military factory, Charlotte had just discussed with Sylvia and Anina about the plan to mass-produce the scavenger infantry fighting vehicle and the idea of designing Rema Group's own tank when the 4 female knights hospitaller came to his door again. After Sylvia and Anina left, Charlotte said, What are you doing here again? Do you think we want to come here? Teresa, who had been molested by Charlotte, said, We are here to tell you the latest situation. Rosa closed the door of the office. Charlotte said indifferently, What's the new situation over there? Our people have already launched an operation in Siberia. Our people have taken down the FA organization's training base in Siberia, Giovanna said. Charlotte immediately smiled. That's good. That's really good news. Stella put a phone in front of Charlotte. On it was a photo of a corpse. The deceased in the photo was a teenager, no more than 16 years old. He had been shot at least a dozen times, and his blood dyed a large area of snow red. Charlotte reached out and swiped the screen. It was another photo of a corpse, and not just one, but several. He flipped through the photos one by one. Every photo was a photo of a corpse, and there were dozens of them. Charlotte soon flipped to the last photo, and he couldn't move his eyes away. The last photo was also a photo of a corpse, but instead of being shot, he had been beheaded while he was still alive. Then, someone had written a sentence on the snow with his head. "Charlotte, if you want to kill me, you'll have to do it yourself. Coward." There was no name on this sentence, but he could guess who wrote it. It was Yamosa. "This body doesn't belong to the FA, it belongs to us. Ramosa killed him and fled into the forest. Our people are searching the forest. We'll let you know as soon as we have any news," Teresa said, looking at Charlotte with unfriendly eyes. She was still annoyed that Charlotte had said that her place smelled like salted fish. She had always thought that it was the smell of bread. "Thank you." Charlotte returned the phone to Stella. Stella said, "Mr. Xia, Ramosa is a top killer, the strongest agent of the FA organization. If our people can't kill her or catch her, please understand." Charlotte frowned. "Did you want to say this to me, or did Arthur ask you to say it?" "Yes." Stella was about to speak, but Rosa touched her waist, and she immediately closed her mouth again. Charlotte smiled. "So it was Arthur who asked you to say it. You told him that killing or capturing Ramosa is a very important part of our agreement. If he doesn't carry it out, I don't think I need to tell you the result, right?" "Then please help us," Giovanna said. "Ramosa is very strong. If she wants to escape, it will be very difficult for us to catch her. If you participate in the pursuit, she will see you as a target and won't escape. In this way we can kill her or catch her." "Did Arthur ask you to say that too?" Giovanna nodded. "Yes, that's the truth. We're helping you, so you have to do something." After a moment of silence, Charlotte said, "You go back first. I'll think about it. I'll tell you the result when I'm done." "Let's go." Teresa rolled her eyes at Charlotte. Giovanna took 2 steps and then turned back to Charlotte and said, "Mr. Xia, please hurry up. If Ramosa escapes, it will be very difficult to kill her." Charlotte just nodded. Chapter 788. Should he go to Siberia? This was not a trip that he could just leave at any time. If he didn't go, he would lose a great opportunity to kill Ramosa. If he went, he would face unknown risks, and a bloody battle was inevitable. It was already late at night, but Charlotte was still lying on the bed thinking about this problem, unable to make up his mind. Is it because I've earned too much money and lived too comfortably that my courage is getting smaller and smaller? This thought suddenly appeared in Charlotte's heart, and then there was a bitter smile on his face. People would maintain a strong fighting spirit in adversity and dare to fight. But when they achieved success, achieved their dreams, and their lives became comfortable, people would lose the fighting spirit in adversity and settle down to enjoy, and their courage would naturally be smaller. Although he was extraordinary, he was also human, and humans couldn't avoid this. The light on the ceiling suddenly went out. Power outage? Impossible. Peace Residence is connected to the special line of the Thunder Horse military factory. There is almost no possibility of a power outage. Charlotte suddenly thought of something. He suddenly became nervous and jumped off the bed. He was thinking about the strange existence that couldn't be seen through in Paris. That was also the most embarrassing time for him. He didn't dare to fight the other party head-on. With his feet on the carpet, Charlotte's first thought was to take a gun. But he suddenly remembered that he never hid a gun in his room. A gust of wind suddenly blew in from the curtains. The curtains danced, and the moonlight outside the window was hazy. Just as the curtains fluttered, a black shadow suddenly entered through the window. The black shadow was very fast, and its body seemed to be weightless, giving the feeling that a shadow had suddenly broken in. Charlotte's nerves suddenly tightened, and his feet kicked the ground, and his body suddenly retreated. The black shadow suddenly raised its hand, and 3 lights flashed. Charlotte stopped his retreating figure and twisted his waist to dodge. Do. Suddenly, there were 3 4-pointed darts on the door. The black shadow attacked again, this time with a 3-edged boomerang. Its flying speed was very fast, and it whistled through the air as it flew straight towards Charlotte. Charlotte took a step to the side and dodged the 3-bladed boomerang again. The boomerang flew past Charlotte's body, made a turn in the air, and returned to the black figure's hand. At this moment, Charlotte suddenly exerted his strength and his body shot towards the shadow like a cannonball. 2 seconds ago, he panicked and hid. That was because he thought that the mysterious shadow in Paris had chased him all the way to Cathay. However, the other party had attacked him twice in a row. Although the time was very short, he was able to clearly see the other party's figure. The shadow in front of him was not the shadow that had appeared in Paris, but a woman. Her figure was small and slender, and the height of her chest was also very exaggerated. Just based on these 2 characteristics, it only took a second to determine that she was a woman. In the remaining second, Charlotte's left eye had already seen her face. She is an Asian woman. If it wasn't for that terrifying shadow, why would he need to escape? After accumulating all the explosive force in his body, Charlotte arrived in front of the shadow in the blink of an eye. At that moment, his fist also punched towards the shadow's face. This punch was like a cannonball that had been fired. The woman raised her hands and crossed them in front of her face. Bang! With a muffled sound, Charlotte's fist landed on her arm. Under the huge impact, the black figure's body was lifted off the ground. As she flew back, her waist suddenly bent backward, and her right and left feet suddenly rose up. Like a pair of scissors, they slashed across Charlotte's chest. Charlotte, who was chasing after her, couldn't dodge in time and his chest was instantly stepped on by her twice. This was an attack that borrowed force to attack. It was so agile and fast that her body seemed to be weightless, like a swallow in flight. However, Charlotte wasn't slow either. Just as her body was about to complete the backflip, his right hand suddenly grabbed onto her trousers and then pulled back with great force. The sound of cloth tearing could be heard. The black figure's feet stood on the ground, and one of her trousers became a cheongsam, revealing a large portion of her snow-white legs. She was stunned for a moment, as if she didn't expect Charlotte to move so quickly. Xia Lei didn't give her any more time to catch her breath. While she was still in a daze, he suddenly turned sideways and kicked her with a heavy leg. The black figure suddenly retreated. "Wait," she said in Japanese. Charlotte's leg stopped in the air, only 2 to 3 inches away from her face. "I am Akiko Tsukino, I am rat." This sentence was spoken in Chinese, but when it came from her mouth, it gave off a strange feeling. Charlotte put his leg down. In fact, when she said the first sentence, he had already guessed her identity. She was Japanese, and the Hattori family definitely wouldn't dare to break into his room. Also, Peace Residence seemed ordinary and calm, but it was the hidden headquarters of the Zodiac Squad. His father, Yelena, Erdemo, and Alessio were all here. Even the top assassins wouldn't be able to bypass them and break into his room. But she boldly broke in, which meant that the members of the Zodiac Squad didn't interfere with her actions. "What do you mean?" Charlotte said. Akiko Tsukino said, "They said you were very powerful, but I think they were exaggerating. I made a bet with Sayamu, and he said if I beat you, he would give me $100. We're even." Charlotte said, "No, I lost." Akiko Tsukino looked down at the trousers that were torn by Charlotte, and then she took off the black hood on her head. The light in the room suddenly turned on again. Under the light there was a delicate apple face, big eyes, sexy lips, a bit like Ai Fukuhara, but more beautiful and cute than the latter. However, this seemingly cute baby face was definitely a disguise. There was something dark in her eyes, and Charlotte knew what it was. With such a baby face, if she was asked to kill someone, she could easily complete the task. Are you a ninja? Akiko Tsukino nodded lightly. IGA clan. Charlotte smiled. It seems that there are ninjas in Japan. Akiko Tsukino said. Tradition shouldn't be thrown away. Boss, aren't you also a master of Wing Chun? You just mentioned Sayamu, who else? Where are the others? Charlotte asked. At this time, footsteps came from outside the door. Charlotte looked over, and the door disappeared. He saw two people coming over, a dark-skinned young man and a bushy-bearded young man. The dark-skinned young man was tall and thin, with black curly hair and bright eyes, giving people a strange feeling. The bushy-bearded young man had a pair of green eyes and a strong body. The dark-skinned young man had the characteristics of an Indian, while the bushy-bearded young man had the characteristics of an Arab. From their characteristics, Charlotte has already guessed their identity. The dark-skinned young man was the monkey of the Zodiac Squad, Angumi-kan. The green-eyed young man was the dog of the Zodiac Squad, Sayamu from Iraq. They're here. Akiko Tsukino said. She bypassed Charlotte, walked to the door, and reached out to pull out the four-pointed dart that was inserted into the door. In the world of ninjas, this kind of four-pointed dart is called shuriken. Looking at Akiko Tsukino, who took out the shuriken, Charlotte couldn't help but compare her to Tang Yin. He came to the conclusion that Akiko Tsukino's dart skills were almost comparable to Tang Yin's. She was a true expert. Akiko Tsukino opened the door. Angumi-kan and Sayamu appeared at the door. Angumi-kan and Sayamu bowed their heads to Charlotte. Angumi-kan, I'm the monkey of the Zodiac Squad. Angumi-kan said. Sayamu, I'm the dog of the Zodiac Squad. Sayamu said. The two also used Chinese, but both were very poor, one with a curry flavor, the other with a Middle Eastern accent. Hello, I'm Charlotte. Charlotte said. The three new members obviously knew who he was, but out of politeness, this kind of self-introduction couldn't be omitted. Angumi-kan looked at Akiko Tsukino's trousers and grinned. Looks like I've already earned $100. Akiko Tsukino curled the corner of her mouth, looking a little dissatisfied. But in her heart, she sometimes lost willingly. Charlotte's strength was indeed above hers. Boss. Sayamu said, Amanda, Pu Taiyong, Bagu, and Marcus can't die. We want to go to Siberia and kill Yamosa with our own hands. How do you know Yamosa is in Siberia? Charlotte was a little surprised. Sayamu smiled. Boss, the 4 women living in Peace House aren't difficult to deal with. It's not difficult to get information from them. Charlotte smiled, feeling that his question was a little unnecessary. Sayamu was the dog of the Zodiac Squad, the eyes and ears of his father, Xia Changhe. He was also the core of the Zodiac Squad's intelligence system, so it wasn't strange for him to know this kind of information. Charlotte was originally hesitant to go to Siberia, but now that Sayamu mentioned it, he also made a decision. Then let's go together and kill Yamosa. We're going to. It was Arishio's voice. His leg injury had already healed. Along with Arishio were Yelena and Erdemo. Other than the pig represented by Liang Xiao and the mysterious snake, the rest of the Zodiac Squad were all present. Where is the snake? Charlotte couldn't help but ask. No one answered him because no one knew. His father, Xia Changhe, must know the identity of the snake, but if he didn't say it, no one could pry his mouth open. Charlotte couldn't help but have some doubts in his heart. Why didn't his father tell him the identity of the snake? Moreover, even the other members of the Zodiac Squad didn't know. Why did he hide this secret? Boss, we don't have much time. We should get moving, Sayamu said. Charlotte nodded. I'll go talk to the 4 knights of the hospital and have them inform Arthur, then we'll leave for Siberia. I've already contacted a cargo plane to Russia. We only need to pay him $10,000, and he will change the direct flight to Moscow and fly over the route we need to land. Sayamu said. No problem. Charlotte said. A few minutes later, Charlotte arrived at Giovanna and Stella's door. He reached out and knocked on the door. A minute later, Giovanna opened the door for him. You? It's so late. What are you doing? Giovanna, who was only wearing pajamas, subconsciously covered her towering breasts. I'm going to Siberia. Contact Arthur immediately and tell him. Charlotte said. We thought you wouldn't go, Giovanna said. Stella poked her head out from behind the door. When are you leaving? Tonight. Charlotte said. We're going together. Stella said. Charlotte frowned. We're not going sightseeing. Humph. Giovanna snorted coldly. Don't look down on women, especially the women of the Knights of the Hospital. We're all knights. Charlotte shrugged. Well, female knights, I also want to see your chivalry. Chapter 789. The deep night sky was dotted with stars in the distant starry sky. An Ilyushin IL-76 appeared in the Siberian sky. The hatch of the cargo hold was already open, and the cold wind blew in from outside, chilling their muscles. The people in the cargo hold were already equipped with parachutes and equipment. Ladies and gentlemen, the plane has flown to the landing point you requested. You can jump now. I wish you a pleasant journey. The captain's voice in Russian came from the speaker in the cargo hold. He was so polite because Charlotte had taken the initiative to double the amount of money Sayamu had bribed him. He had asked for $10,000, and Charlotte had given him $20,000. The captain reminded them that they could jump, but Charlotte felt a headache coming on. It was his first time parachuting. Although he had an umbrella on him, it was his first time jumping from a height of several thousand meters. It required a lot of courage. Sayamu was the first to rush to the cargo hold and jump. He closed his legs and shoulders, like a spear plunging from the sky to the earth. Angumi Khan was the second, followed by Yelena, Alessio, and the others. Seeing that there were fewer and fewer people in the cargo hold, Charlotte became even more nervous. Soon, the Russo sisters and the Gray sisters jumped in as well. Before they jumped, Charlotte thought that they had no experience in parachuting like him, but the four women did not hesitate at all. One by one, they jumped like dumplings. Only Charlotte and Akiko Tsukino were left in the cargo hold. Charlotte did not know why she had not jumped until now, but he decided to jump after her. First time. Akiko Tsukino walked to Charlotte's side. Charlotte nodded awkwardly. First time. Are you afraid? A little, Charlotte said. In his heart, he thought, isn't that obvious? I don't believe that your first parachute jump will be as easy as this. Look, what is that? A plane? Akiko Tsukino suddenly pointed into the distance. Charlotte looked over as well. Akiko Tsukino took a step back and suddenly kicked Charlotte's butt. Charlotte cried out in alarm and flew out of the cargo hold. Akiko Tsukino sprinted and then leaped out of the IL-76 like a nimble swallow. Charlotte tumbled in the sky. He panicked and couldn't control his body. Just as he was hesitating whether to open the parachute, Akiko Tsukino suddenly hugged him from behind. Her legs clamped tightly around his waist, and her hands came under his arms and hugged his chest. Open it after a while, or you will be blown far away by the wind and miss the landing point, Akiko Tsukino said in Charlotte's ear. Do you do this often? Charlotte was still a little annoyed. What do you mean? This kind of prank. This is the first time. Charlotte. Falling rapidly with a person on his back, Charlotte's heart was no longer afraid. Snowflakes danced around him. He could vaguely see the forest on the ground and the snow covering the forest. There were also a few parachutes that had been opened. They were the people who jumped first. Okay. Akiko Tsukino let go of Charlotte, put her hands on his back, and suddenly got out of his body. Then, she opened the parachute. Charlotte also opened his parachute. He would probably never forget this experience for the rest of his life. But what was certain was that the next time he had to jump, he definitely wouldn't be as flustered as he was today. After landing at the predetermined landing point, Charlotte took off the parachute. Teresa walked over and said in Italian, "I thought you would wait until the plane reached Moscow before you jumped off." She seemed to still have a grudge about the molestation incident last time, and would come looking for trouble whenever she got the chance. Charlotte extended his right hand toward her, and then extended his middle finger. He said in Italian, "Do you believe that I will do it to you again? I'm not afraid of the smell of salted fish." She bit Charlotte's middle finger, but Charlotte retracted it. "You will go to hell," Teresa said angrily. Charlotte smiled and said, "Even if a person like me goes to hell, I will be a distinguished guest there, and I will live a very good life." Teresa was about to bicker with Charlotte, but Giovanna stopped her and said, "Our people will come to pick us up soon. Tell your people to be careful and not to hurt them by mistake." Charlotte nodded and said, "I will tell them and ask them to be careful." Giovanna pulled Teresa aside and said, "Why do you still want to provoke him? You're acting like a child. Have you forgotten our mission?" But Teresa wanted to say something but stopped on second thought, still unwilling to give up. Don't provoke women. This was a well-known saying in the world. Charlotte called the 6 members of the Zodiac squad aside and said in Mandarin, "The Knights Hospitaller will come to pick us up later. Be careful. Don't shoot, but you can't ignore the Knights Hospitaller." And Yumi-kan said, "They'd better not have any other ideas, or I won't be polite with my gun." 10 minutes later, several snowmobiles came out of the forest. Giovanna talked to the people who came and then asked Charlotte and his people to get on the snowmobiles. There was a rider on each snowmobile, and they were also dragging a sled, which could be used to carry people and weapons. Charlotte and his people got on the snowmobiles. After that, a few snowmobiles passed through a forest and came to a frozen freshwater lake. A cabin could be seen in the distance, as well as a dozen military tents around the cabin. The snow was flying, but Charlotte could also see the snipers hiding in the forest behind the cabin, as well as the gunmen who were already on guard around the cabin. "This is the FA organization's camp in Siberia." Yelena, who was in the same sled, said to Charlotte, "But it's only a part of it. Your father was trained here." "Have you been here before?" asked Charlotte. "Yes, I've been here with my father. I almost died here that time." Yelena seemed to be lost in memories of the past, and her expression was a little solemn. The snowmobiles soon arrived in front of the cabin. Several gunmen on guard looked at Charlotte and the members of the Zodiac squad warily. The muzzles in their hands were slightly raised, and they were ready to shoot at any time. The same was true for the Zodiac squad. Each of them was carrying a Gale assault rifle, an XL 2500 sniper rifle, and a Viper pistol. The muzzles of the Gale assault rifles were also slightly raised, and the safety was off, ready to shoot at any time. Xiaolei jumped down from the sleigh and shifted his gaze to the military tents around the wooden house. He saw something else. The people living in the tents were dressed in different clothes and had different weapons and equipment. It looked like a motley army of killers, drug dealers, and gangsters. He also made a judgment in his heart. The people living in the tents should be mercenaries and armed forces hired by the Knights Hospitaller, and the people living in the cabin and standing guard were the Knights Hospitaller. Just as Xiaolei retracted his gaze, the door of the wooden house opened and Arthur walked out of the wooden house. He was wearing thick winter clothes and a Russian mink hat. He looked like a real Russian. "Mr. Xia, you finally came." Arthur looked very polite. "Thank you for your understanding and support. It's good that you're here. We can leave this damn place soon." "Where is Ramosa now?" asked Charlotte. "Please come in." "I can't describe it, but my computer can," said Arthur. Charlotte entered the cabin. When Yelena, Akiko Tsukino, and the others were about to go in, they were stopped by the Knights Hospitaller at the door. "I'm sorry, this cabin is too small," Arthur said. "You can wait outside for a while." Arthur's words did not work. Yelena provoked the Knights Hospitaller gunmen who were blocking the way. Russians had always been hot-tempered, even women were no exception. "Wait for me outside for a while," said Charlotte. Only after Charlotte spoke did Yelena stop provoking the armed Knights Hospitaller. There was firewood burning in the fireplace in the cabin. It was much warmer than the cold temperature outside. On a simple wooden table, there was a military laptop and 2 burning candles. At the bottom of the 2 candles was the emblem of the Knights Hospitaller. Their existence made Charlotte vigilant, but this time he did not smell the tequila fragrance of the Requiem candle. Arthur walked to the wooden table and lifted the monitor of the military laptop. Then he hit the enter key, and a satellite map appeared on the monitor. It was an area with complicated terrain, mountains, forests, rivers, and lake. There were no villages or towns. It was a real no man's land. There were 4 flashing red dot signals on the map. They were located at the 4 corners of the map. Our people have trapped her in this place. The 4 signals you see are all positioning signals sent by our people. Yamosa is in the middle of the area surrounded by the 4 signals, Arthur said. Our people can only temporarily trap her in this area, but as long as she prepares the supplies, she can pass through this area. In that case, there is almost no way for us to trap her again. What supplies does she want to prepare? Charlotte said. Arthur said, Siberia has entered winter ahead of time, and it will become a forbidden zone for humans. If humans want to survive here, they need cold-resistant clothing, high-calorie food, and ski equipment. Without these, even the most powerful warriors can't survive in such a place. Of course, Yamosa needs these things too. We suddenly attacked the FA organization's training base, and she escaped in the scuffle. She can take very little with her. I guess she has used up all of her supplies by now. She urgently needs to prepare food and make ski equipment. This will delay her for some time, and this is our chance to strike. Arthur's description was very clear, but Charlotte frowned. According to the scale shown on the satellite map, the area blocked by the 4 signal sources was almost several square kilometers. Such a large area was a no-man's land with complex terrain. How could it be easy to find a hidden person in it? Mr. Xia, I know what you are worried about, Arthur said, but I don't think you need to worry too much about this. I believe you should have seen the photos I sent you, right? Yamosa left those words in the snow. She wanted to lure you here. If you come, she will definitely show up. Charlotte's gaze suddenly moved to the wall next to the fireplace, on which there were some Chinese characters carved with a knife. Seeing the content of those Chinese characters, he was stunned. Chapter 790. Charlotte, I hate you. Charlotte, I'm going to cut your throat. Charlotte, I'm going to kill you. Charlotte, do you know that you're the only reason why I'm still alive? Charlotte, today is my birthday. I want to dig out your heart as my birthday present. Charlotte, I want you to remember me for the rest of your life. Charlotte, every word carved on the wall with a knife was filled with hatred and curses. Although there was no name of the person who carved the words, Charlotte could guess the answer immediately. These words were carved on the wall by Gu Qian. This surprised him. He didn't think that this place was the place where Gu Qian and his father, Xia Changhe, were trained. An image uncontrollably appeared in his mind. The bone-chilling wind, the fluttering snow, and Gu Qian lying on the snow looked very peaceful. It was as if he was immersed in a wonderful dream and couldn't bear to come out. Gu Qian was dead. Although she couldn't complete her revenge, she did one thing, and that was to make him remember her for the rest of his life. Charlotte didn't want to admit this, but it was the truth. Mr. Xia. Arthur's voice. Charlotte came back to his senses. What? You're distracted. Arthur's gaze also moved to the wall with the words carved on it. I've seen those Chinese characters, and I even had someone translate them. I think the person who carved those words must hate you, and you probably know who that person is, right? You don't have to test me. It doesn't matter who she is anymore, because I've already killed her with my own hands. Xia Lei sighed, took out a piece of chewing gum from his pocket, and put it in his mouth to chew. Arthur shrugged. All right, then let's talk about what we should do. How many people do you have? More than 100. I need a specific number, Charlotte said. No problem. Arthur looked indifferent. In this operation, we originally had 140 people participating. 3 or 8 died, and there are 102 left. Is that clear enough? Are you talking about all of us, or just the number of nights hospitaler? Of course it's all of us. Arthur's eyes flashed with a hint of displeasure. Charlotte originally wanted to ask in more detail, but seeing that Arthur was unhappy, he didn't ask any more. But from his observation, the number of nights hospitaler was definitely not small, at least more than half. Have you searched that area? Charlotte said. Of course we have. Then how are you sure that Samantha is in that area? Dead. We searched the first time, 3 people died the first time, the second time, 2 people died the second time. That's how we were sure she was still in that area. When was the last time you searched that area? It started at 2 in the afternoon yesterday, and ended at 6 in the evening. She can hardly move at night, and it's the same with Yamosa. She can only hide at night or she'll freeze to death, said Arthur. Then we'll start. You bring your people, and I'll bring mine. Charlotte pointed at the satellite map on the military laptop and said, My people and I will enter from the 3:00 direction. You have more people, so you can split your people into 3 teams and enter from the 6:00, 9:00, and 12:00 directions respectively. That way we can expand the area of the search. No problem. No matter which direction you find traces of the enemy, immediately fire a warning shot. The other 3 teams will rush over to support and surround them. Is that okay? Yes, no problem. Arthur said, There's still some time before daybreak. You and your people can rest in the tent. I've prepared a tent for you. It's right by the lake. There's no need. We brought our own equipment. Thank you, Mr. Arthur. Charlotte moved closer to Arthur and opened his arms. Arthur naturally hugged Charlotte. Just as the two of them hugged, Arthur put something into Charlotte's pocket. At the same time, Charlotte stuck out his tongue and the piece of chewing gum in his mouth fell into his palm. There was a small electronic device in his palm. It blinked of an eye and mixed with the chewing gum, but the part that should be exposed was still exposed. He flicked his finger upwards, and the piece of chewing gum flew to the wall above the fireplace and stuck firmly. After the hug, Charlotte turned and left the cabin. Boss, what's going on? Yelena came over. Charlotte said, We'll start at daybreak. We'll find a place to set up camp and rest. Siamu said, Boss, before Siamu could finish, Charlotte gave Siamu a look and said, What do you want to say? Siamu was the intelligence core of the Zodiac Squad. He had a professional understanding of Charlotte's look. He changed his words and said, What I want to say is, this damn place is so cold. Where are we going to set up our tent? Charlotte said, Let's go to the woods over there. The trees can block the wind for us. He led the members of the Zodiac Squad towards the forest. As they walked, he fished out the listening device that Arthur had secretly placed in his pocket. He looked at it for a moment before putting it back into his pocket. The other members of the Zodiac Squad had seen the listening device that Charlotte had taken out of his pocket. They understood what had happened. Charlotte muttered to himself as he walked, The knights of the hospital are really useless. More than 100 of them couldn't even catch one person. They even needed me to do it myself. Tomorrow we must show them our strength. Alessio's voice was very loud. Where is that bitch Yamasa hiding? I can't wait to catch her and feed her to the dogs. Yelena's voice was heard. They talked as they walked, and soon they were far away. In the cabin, Arthur carefully checked his pockets and collars. The results of the inspection made him feel relieved. The speaker of the military laptop on the table was playing Charlotte's voice. It was very clear. Arthur couldn't help but sneer. The information was right. Women are your biggest weakness. At this time, the Grey and Russo sisters came in. Giovanna said, "Head Knight, we saw Charlotte and his people go to another place. Are they not going to use the tent we prepared for him?" "I expected that. He is very cautious," Arthur said lightly. "But since he is here, our goal has been achieved. Let him kill the people of the FA organization first, and when his people are almost dead, he. Doesn't he know that Yamasa is not the only FA organization member in that area?" Stella said. "What do you think? If it's just Yamasa, even if she is the god of war, she can't stop more than 100 guns," Arthur said. "I hope we can succeed this time," Teresa said bitterly. "If we let him go back to China again, things will become troublesome again." "He can't go back," Arthur sneered. "This time, you made a great contribution to persuading Charlotte to come to Siberia. The eyes of the Lord will watch you and remember your contributions. Guard the faith, save the suffering," the Grey and Russo sisters said in unison and crossed themselves. Go to Charlotte's side," Arthur said. Arthur said, "Just listening to their conversation is not enough. I need to borrow your eyes to monitor his and his people's actions." Teresa bit her lip and finally summoned the courage to say, "He is very lecherous, dirty, and disgusting." Arthur's eyes suddenly turned cold. "Women are his only weakness. You must remember that you are knights of the hospital. Have you forgotten your oath? We'll go right now." Giovanna turned around and left. The other 3 women also left the cabin, and the 4 women walked in the direction where Charlotte left. 50 meters ahead, Charlotte adjusted his earplugs, which had been blown askew by the wind, and smiled. He did not come to Siberia because the 4 women of the hospital knights were actually able to persuade him, and Arthur still believed that he had been bewitched by the Grey and Russo sisters. It seemed that it was worth it to put his hand under Teresa's skirt in front of Arthur. That thing had a very good effect. Now it seemed that Arthur's plan was not complicated. He would use Yamosa to lure him to Siberia, use the FA organization to weaken his strength, and finally capture him and exchange him for the holy relic. The so-called glory and credibility of the knights could actually be abandoned in the face of a core interest like the holy relic. The wind blew on his face, and Charlotte thought to himself, "You want to use the FA organization to weaken my strength, and I have the same plan as you. I'll have some fun with you after I get rid of Yamasa. If you attack me, I'll attack you. If you want to exchange me for the holy relic, I'll dig out the secret I want from your mouth." There was a great risk in coming to Siberia, but there was also a great strategic benefit. 4 members of the Zodiac team had died in the hands of Yamosa, and Akiko Tsukino, Sayamu, and Angumi Khan had returned to the team. He had brought them to Siberia to take revenge, which would make his prestige greater, and his control over the Zodiac team would be firmer. Secondly, he would take the opportunity to weaken the strength of the hospital knights, and dig out the secret he wanted from Arthur's mouth. Therefore, even though he knew it was dangerous, he still came. Sometimes, risks and benefits were directly proportional. The greater the risk, the greater the reward. "Mr. Xia, wait for us." Giovanna's voice came from behind. Charlotte first gave the members of the Zodiac team a look, and then said with a smile, "Hey, women are so troublesome. There are 4 of them, but I only have 1 D*CK damn. I wish I could grow 3 more D*CK and F*CK them all at once. Do you know, I have to sleep with them one by one every night? I'm so tired that my back hurts." "Ha! Boss, you should have brought Viagra, right?" Alessio laughed. "You men are so disgusting." Akiko Tsukino laughed. Yelena simply spat on the ground. "I have to stay away from you. I hate hearing the sound of those women calling the window. That night, you tortured them for most of the night and I didn't sleep at all." "Oh, I'm really sorry. Who asked me to be so strong?" "Ah." Charlotte laughed wretchedly. He found that every member of the Zodiac team was a good actor. Chapter 791. After entering the forest, Charlotte quickly chose a place to camp. Then, the members of the Zodiac Squad set up several military tents. The Grey sisters and the Russo sisters also set up 2 tents next to Charlotte's tent. They became Charlotte's neighbors. They were Arthur's eyes and ears, but Charlotte regarded them as microphones. The cold wind blew through the canopy and swept through the trees. The whole world was filled with a howling sound, as if thousands of ghosts were crying. Only in such an environment could people feel the power of nature and feel awe. On the Zodiac Squad side, except for Angumi Khan, who was on guard duty, everyone else hid in their tents. No one wanted to be exposed to the wind and snow. If they did, they would be frozen into popsicles in less than 2 hours. Angumi Khan's position was outside Charlotte's tent. This made the Grey and Russo sisters afraid to approach Charlotte's tent. In the tent, Charlotte was nestled in his sleeping bag and looking at a box-shaped electronic device. It was only 6 inches in size and looked like a mobile phone. Its screen was showing a real-time image of the inside of the small wooden house. Arthur was on a video call with someone. "Your Excellency." Arthur's tone was very respectful. "Charlotte has arrived in Siberia. Our plan is going well." "How many people did he bring?" 6. Charlotte's finger enlarged the display size of the military laptop on the touchscreen, but he still couldn't see who was on the video call with Arthur. After all, the video call window was only a few inches wide on the monitor, and then it was projected onto the terminal in his hand. Even if he activated his microvision ability, it would be useless. However, he wasn't worried that he couldn't see what the commander looked like. The spy device wrapped in chewing gum had recorded the video, and he could take it back with more advanced equipment to get a clearer image. At that time, he could clearly see what the commander of the hospital knights looked like at a glance. The voice of the commander came from the speaker of the military laptop. 6. He's really bold. 6 people are easy to deal with. This is a good opportunity for us. I want to hear your plan. Arthur said, "We trapped Yamosa, but she's not alone. There are at least 20 people from the FA organization in that area. I will let Charlotte take his people to fight with the FA organization and consume his people. When he was alone, I caught him and asked his father to exchange the holy relic for him." "What if his father doesn't know where the relic is hidden?" "No problem, I will personally go to the capital of China." The Grey sisters and the Russo sisters had lived in Charlotte's house for a while and had also been to the Thunder Horse military factory. They had already figured out the environment there. "So as long as we capture Charlotte, we can take back our sacred relic." The person in the window was silent for a moment before saying, "You have to remember, this operation can only succeed, not fail. If you fail and Charlotte escapes, then it will be even more difficult for us to get our sacred relic back." Arthur said, "This is Siberia, a forbidden area for humans. Without a means of transportation, he can't escape. There will be a battle tomorrow. The people of the FA organization will die, Charlotte's people will also die, and Charlotte will also become our hostage. Your Excellency, wait for my good news. Well, if you catch Charlotte, you will get the reward you deserve. Guard the faith, help the suffering." Arthur knelt in front of the table and made a cross with his hand, looking very pious. The video call ended. "I didn't expect the FA organization to have more than 20 people. It seems that the Knights Hospitaller deliberately surrounded them and waited for me." A sneer appeared at the corner of Charlotte's mouth. He took out the internal communicator used by the Zodiac team and lowered his voice. "Akiko Tsukino, come to my tent." "Okay." Akiko Tsukino's voice came from the communicator. 2 minutes later, Akiko Tsukino got into Charlotte's tent and looked at Charlotte with a strange look. "Why did you ask me to come here?" Charlotte took out the bug that Arthur had put on him. Akiko Tsukino then opened her mouth. "Ow ow yamit ichiku," Xiaolei stared at her, dumbfounded. Akiko Tsukino pointed at the bug in his hand. Charlotte just wanted to remind her not to talk nonsense, but he didn't expect that she interpreted the script from another angle and even performed it. But it was undeniable that she was an authentic Japanese. Yamete, ichiku, and so on were authentic Japanese products from her mouth. They were authentic and had a pure taste. Akiko Tsukino spread out her hands with a strange look on her face. Charlotte moved closer to her ear and whispered, "Tomorrow." Akiko Tsukino nodded and continued to speak in an authentic Japanese accent. Harashiku, Harashiku, the expansion of the destruction of Harashiku, ether, ether. She's so cool. Yamete, Yamete, ichiku, ichiku, ichiku. A question suddenly popped up in Xiaolei's mind. Where did she learn this from? Was it a compulsory course for IGA Ryu ninjas? In the Russo sisters' tent. So disgusting. He actually did that kind of thing with his female subordinates in such an environment. Rosa's voice was heard. I hope the cold current in Siberia froze his D*ck off. Teresa also imitated the frozen action. Fall to the ground and then turn into slag. In the Grey sisters' tent. What's that woman yelling about? Stella listened attentively. She's probably a Japanese. She's yelling so exaggeratedly. This is simply blasphemy. Giovanna crossed her hands and asked for forgiveness. This is probably the last time he'll enjoy it. He'll be finished tomorrow. Shoo! The light of dawn dispersed the darkness and the snowstorm stopped. However, the sky was still covered with gray clouds and not a single ray of sunlight could be seen. Charlotte and the members of the Zodiac squad ate some energy food and then pulled out their tents and trudged in the predetermined direction. The Russo sisters and the Grey sisters also followed Charlotte and his team. For Charlotte, these four women were like sticky candy that stuck to him. The Knights Hospitaller also began to move. They split into 3 groups and advanced in the predetermined direction. Arthur personally led a team of 30 people and advanced in the direction of 6 o'clock. This direction was not far from the direction that Charlotte and the Zodiac squad were in charge of. The 2 teams were only moving at a right angle of 90 degrees, so they would eventually meet. The snow in the forest was getting deeper and deeper, and the skis came in handy. However, for Charlotte, this was another first after his first parachute jump. It was his first time skiing. He was carrying almost 30 kilograms of equipment on his back. Coupled with his lack of familiarity with skiing, he fell many times along the way. One time, he even bumped into Giovanna and fell into the snow with her. However, Giovanna was not angry. Instead, she was secretly happy. How could Charlotte escape this time when he was skiing like this? The information that Charlotte did not know how to ski was also passed on to Arthur, who was in the direction of 6 o'clock. After an hour of arduous trekking, Siamu suddenly pointed in a direction and said, "There's blood over there." The team's formation suddenly broke up, and they cautiously approached the place. The remaining blood on the snow had dried up, and there were also some bare fur and discarded internal organs, intestines, and stomach. It looked terrible and bloody. Charlotte reached out and touched the blood and the animal's internal organs. There was no temperature, but his left eye could see the inside of the blood and internal organs. He saw the situation inside and quickly made a judgment. They left less than half an hour ago. They have bare meat with them, so they can't be very fast. Go after them. Before anyone could determine the direction of the pursuit, Charlotte had already stepped on the skis and chased in a direction to the side. How did he make such a judgment? Giovanna looked surprised. I didn't see anything except the blood and the animal's internal organs. Yes, the FA organization's people covered up the footprint. How could he determine the direction of the other party's departure? Teresa was also surprised. However, the Sisters of the Grey and Russo families did not hesitate and followed behind the team. At the end of the team, Giovanna skated on the snow and said to the collar of her winter coat, "Charlotte has found the traces left by the FA organization's people. We are tracking them in the direction of 2 o'clock. End of report. It didn't take long for footprints to appear in the snow. They were very messy, and they were not the footprints of a single person. There are 6 of them, Charlotte said. We are not far from them. Be careful. Others were still looking at the footprints in the snow, but he had already determined the number of opponents. The members of the Zodiac team quickly responded, found cover, and entered a fighting state. Charlotte took off the skis on his feet and walked in front of Giovanna. He said angrily, "Didn't you say that there was only Yamasa? Why are there footprints of 6 people?" "How would I know?" Giovanna looked a little nervous. Bang! Suddenly there was a gunshot. A bullet suddenly flew from the forest and hit the trunk of a coniferous pine tree. Wood chips flew everywhere, and the snow on the top of the tree fell down. "They are in front of us, about 50 meters. Angumi Khan's voice was heard. Bang! Bang! The members of the Zodiac team fired back. Bullets flew through the forest, accompanied by whooshing sounds and splinters of shattered trees. The battle reached its climax in just a few seconds. Charlotte stopped asking Giovanna, and he also threw himself into the battle. "What should we do?" Teresa whispered. "Let them fight," Stella said. "We'll just fire a few shots from behind." Giovanna lay on the snow and said to the collar of her winter coat again, "Charlotte and his people have already exchanged fire with the FA organization's people." At this moment, Akiko Tsukino suddenly screamed and fell on the snow. A stream of blood overflowed from her body and dyed the snow red. Giovanna's voice was also excited. "The FA organization's people have killed one of Charlotte's people." "No!" Charlotte roared and rushed to Akiko Tsukino's side. He shook Akiko Tsukino's shoulder and said, "You can't die. Get up." Akiko Tsukino didn't respond at all, but she blinked her eyes slightly. Chapter 792. I'm going to kill them. Yelena dashed forward like a madwoman, using the tree trunk as cover while shooting with the Gust assault rifle in her hand. "Come back!" Charlotte roared. "It's dangerous." Just as he finished speaking, Yelena also fell to the ground. No, Charlotte was about to go crazy. Angumi Khan took out a hellbound one-soldier cannon, loaded it, and fired at the enemy's position. 2 FA organization agents were blown up into the sky, one of them was even blown into 2 pieces. His intestines, internal organs, broken fingers, and bone fragments scattered all over the ground. The remaining 4 agents of the FA organization broke down in an instant. A hellbound one-soldier cannon was equivalent to a small tank. With the light weapons in their hands, it was impossible for them to defend their line of defense. The 4 FA organization agents abandoned the bear meat and fired blindly while retreating into the depths of the forest. "You want to leave? You'll have to ask if my gun agrees." Charlotte's lips curled into a cold smile. His finger placed the trigger of the XL 2500 sniper rifle in front of him and pulled. Bang! An armor-piercing bullet shot out, instantly piercing through the trunk of a tree and into the chest of an FA organization agent. Even though the tree had absorbed most of the impact, the FA organization agent's body was still blown away by the armor-piercing bullet. After losing half of his head, he fell to the ground. Fighting against the world's strongest sniper with X-ray vision within a 50-meter radius was no different from suicide. Bang! Bang! Almost at the same time, Angumi Khan and Sayamu also fired. 2 FA organization agents also fell to the ground after the gunshot. Angumi Khan was using a Gust assault rifle, but his shot was at the level of a sniper rifle. He was the sharpshooter of the Chinese Zodiac battle team. Just based on this shot alone, he deserved to be called the sharpshooter. Out of the 6 FA organization agents, only 1 was left. Alessio raised his gun and was about to shoot the man when Charlotte pressed down on the muzzle. "Leave one alive. He will lead us to Dark Mona's hiding place. Since we're here, we need someone to bring this news to Dark Mona." Alessio shrugged. "How boring. I'm not here for a vacation." At this moment, the Gray sisters and the Russo sisters who were hiding in the back walked up to them. "Boss, what should we do with them?" And Gyumi-kan pointed at Akiko Tsukino's body, which was lying in the snow. Then, he shifted his gaze to Yelena's body in the other direction with a sorrowful expression. Charlotte sighed. "This is a battlefield. We don't have time to deal with their bodies. They will understand. Let's go, we have to follow that guy's trail and find Dark Mona." The Gray sisters and the Russo sisters crossed their hands and chanted piously, "Merciful Heavenly Father, you have chosen them." Before they could finish, Charlotte interrupted them. "Let's go. We don't have time to waste. They're not Catholics either." Giovanna glared at Charlotte. "In the eyes of the Holy Lord, everyone is his subjects. He takes pity on all of them." Stella added, "They died for you. Don't you feel grateful at all?" Charlotte said, "Then you can hold the ceremony for them here. We're leaving." The Chinese Zodiac battle team members followed Charlotte and left. The Gray sisters and the Russo sisters looked at each other and gave up on the ceremony. They continued to follow Charlotte and the Chinese Zodiac battle team members into the depths of the forest. Giovanna turned around and looked at Yelena's body. She whispered into the collar of her winter suit. He lost another person. The terrain in the forest was getting higher and higher, so the skis became a burden. Charlotte and the Chinese Zodiac battle team members threw away the skis and carried the heavy military bags. They trudged into the depths of the forest. About a kilometer in front of them was a very tall mountain peak. They could vaguely see the white snow on the peak and the forest that covered the mountainside. The agent of the FA organization who had been set free had left traces in the snow, and those traces extended in the direction of the mountain peak. "Will he lead us in the opposite direction?" Gyumi-kan asked. "Or is he deliberately leading us into a trap?" Charlotte said. "He must have the FA organization's communicator on him. When we arrive, he will send this information to Dark Mona. So, no matter where he leads us, we will meet Dark Mona. Does it make a difference whether he leads us to Dark Mona's hiding place or a trap?" Gyumi-kan was stunned for a moment, then he grinned. "You're right. We're here to kill her. As long as she shows herself, everything will be fine." Sayamu's eyes were still filled with worry, but after hearing Charlotte's words, he relaxed and was not as nervous as before. He knew about Charlotte's battle in Dawang. Charlotte had single-handedly killed more than 90 agents, special forces, professional soldiers and assassins. With such a leader, what else did he have to worry about? In fact, the reason why Charlotte did not care whether it was a hiding place or a trap was very simple. His eyesight was more than 4 kilometers away, so he could see clearly in a place that even a sniper could not see clearly with a telescope. With his X-ray vision, the enemy hiding in the forest would have nowhere to hide. With this, why would he be afraid of the FA organization's people setting up a trap in front of them? After a distance of 500 meters, Charlotte suddenly raised his hand. The 4 members of the Chinese Zodiac battle team immediately spread out and found their own hiding places. Charlotte also squatted under a tree and waved at Giovanna, who was hiding behind. Giovanna braced herself and moved to Charlotte's side. She whispered, "What are you doing? Didn't we agree that we would come to support as soon as we heard gunshots? We're already fighting with the FA organization. Why aren't your people here yet?" Charlotte said. How would I know?" Giovanna hesitated. Maybe something unexpected happened. Charlotte looked straight into Giovanna's eyes. "You're not lying to me, are you? I've already lost 2 people, but your people are hiding somewhere else, unwilling to contribute. If this is the case, why would I give you 50 million USD? Why would I give you the holy relic?" Giovanna avoided Charlotte's aggressive gaze. I really don't know what happened, but I believe that our people won't let you fight alone. Please believe me, I promise you in the name of the Knights," Charlotte said coldly. "Then I also promise you and the Knights Hospitaller as a partner that if you want to play any tricks, you won't get anything. Boss. There's someone in front. Sayamu's voice sounding nervous and anxious. Charlotte had already seen someone moving in front of them, which was why he asked the team to stop. And Gyumi-kan took off the XL 2500 sniper rifle on his shoulder. He took a look, but soon frowned. It's too far. There are too many trees. I can't shoot. The target was too far away. The bullet needed to fly for a certain amount of time before it could hit the target. In an environment full of obstacles, some predetermined shooting points would be blocked. By the time the bullet reached the target would have already hidden. Therefore, in a battle in the forest, a sniper was actually very passive. This was also why snipers always carried a pistol with them. In certain circumstances, a pistol was sometimes more useful than a sniper rifle. Just as Anjum-kan was at his wit's end, Xia Lei abruptly stood up, raised his gun, aimed and pulled the trigger. Without hesitation, he fired a bullet. A gunshot rang out. The specially made armor-piercing bullet flew 500 meters before it pierced into the trunk of a tree. Then, the FA organization agent who had just moved behind the tree fell on his back on the snowy ground. There was a bowl-sized bloody hole in his chest. And Gyumi-kan, who saw this through the scope of the XL 2500 sniper rifle, was stunned. He even forgot to breathe. Not far behind Charlotte, Teresa, who was using a telescope to observe the enemy, silently dropped her jaw to the ground. In the world of snipers, as long as Charlotte claimed to be second, who would dare to claim to be first? Bang bang bang, rat-a-tat-tat. The FA organization suddenly became restless. Someone fired blindly. The bullets flew aimlessly in the forest. The sound was terrifying, but it did not have any effect at all. Charlotte said in a low voice, "They still have 9 people. 3 are active on the left flank, 3 are active on the right flank, and the remaining 3 are shooting at us in the middle. Prepare to meet the enemy." And Gyumi-kan and Sayamu moved to the left. Alessio and Erdemo moved to the right. Giovanna came back to her senses. "The person you let go led us into a trap, but you found them before they were ready to ambush us. How did you do it?" Charlotte pointed to the sky. "God gave me guidance, so I found the enemy in advance." Giovanna was speechless. Charlotte suddenly hugged Giovanna and threw himself on the snowy ground with her. Boom! A rocket hit the tree trunk and exploded. The scorching heat wave almost brushed past their backs as it shot into the distance. Charlotte climbed up from Giovanna, raised his gun, pulled the trigger, and completed all the planned movements in 1 second. In the next second, the FA organization agent who launched the rocket attack was knocked to the ground by a bullet. The bullet from the XL 2500 sniper rifle blew off half of his neck. Teresa, who was observing the enemy with binoculars, suddenly shifted her gaze to Charlotte. She looked at him as if she was looking at a monster. Charlotte reached out and patted Giovanna's perky butt. He smirked. "You owe me a life. How about giving me a blowjob tonight?" It was a frivolous action, and his words were vulgar. However, Giovanna did not react at all. She was still thinking about what had just happened. She could not understand how Charlotte had discovered that someone had launched a rocket attack. Charlotte gave her a very strange feeling during the battle. It was as if he was not a human, but a god. An omnipotent god. A question arose in the hearts of the Gray and Russo sisters. Was the Knight Hospitaller really going to make an enemy out of such a person? "The target on the left has been eliminated." And Gyumi-kan's voice rang out. "Roger that. Support the right flank." Charlotte ordered. Boom. Suddenly, there was a sound of an explosion from the left. Smoke and snow rose up together. "Hello? Hello?" Charlotte grabbed the communicator hanging on his shoulder and shouted, "Are you all okay? Hurry up and reply." No one replied. Damn it. Charlotte punched a tree in front of him. A piece of the tree bark was smashed by him, but his fist was also cut and bleeding. "Boss, they're retreating." Alessio's voice rang out. Charlotte rushed forward with his XL 2500 sniper rifle. "Kill them! The Gray and Russo sisters looked at each other and rushed out as well. He only has 2 people left. The people he brought are average. Giovanna lowered her voice. But he's very scary. Bang bang bang. Amidst the gunshots, a retreating agent of the FA organization fell to the ground. After killing a target, Alessio, who was charging forward at high speed, screamed and fell to the ground. Chapter 793. In a world of ice and snow, with a gunshot, the last agent of the FA organization fell to the ground. Erdemo, who fired the shot, also fell to the ground, clutching his chest. No one saw how he was shot until his body fell heavily to the ground, and the sisters of the Gray and Russo families found out that he was shot. Charlotte rushed over and threw away the gun in his hand. He held Erdemo's head with tears in his eyes and choked with sobs. Don't die, please don't die. Boss, go back, don't stay here, I can't, puff. Before he finished his sentence, Erdemo spat out a mouthful of blood. Charlotte clutched his chest nervously, and blood kept flowing out through his fingers. Go back. This was Erdemo's last word. After that, he closed his eyes. No matter how Charlotte called him, he didn't respond at all. Let's get out of here. Giovanna picked up Charlotte from the ground. Charlotte pushed her to the ground. My people are dead, I want to avenge them. Giovanna shouted at him. Calm down. The people of the FA organization will come here at any time, we are in danger here. Danger? Charlotte lost control of his emotions. My people are dead, but you are unharmed. What danger do you have? What danger do you have? Is this the chivalry of the Knights of the Hospital? You are a bunch of cowards. Giovanna felt guilty and speechless. She wanted to get up from the ground, but Charlotte slapped her down again. He was like a child when he lost control of his emotions. Teresa stood in front of Giovanna and said angrily, What do you want to do? We are not your enemy. We are also fighting. Do you want us to die as well before you're satisfied? Do you think this is fair? Enough. Don't argue anymore. Yamosa is definitely nearby. She will definitely be happy to see us like this. Rosa roared. We have to get out of here. Stella's voice was filled with anxiety. Charlotte picked up the XL 2500 sniper rifle on the ground. He wiped the tears from the corner of his eyes and extended a hand to Giovanna. I'm sorry, I was too impulsive. Their deaths have nothing to do with you. The FA organization is just too strong. Giovanna grabbed Charlotte's hand and got up from the ground. I swear, we will kill Yamasa. Stella also said, although your people are dead, you still have us and the Knights Hospitaller. You are not fighting alone. Charlotte nodded. Let's go. The 5 of them continued to walk towards the peak at the end of the forest. Giovanna was once again at the back of the team. She spoke into the communicator hidden in her winter suit. He is now alone. We are moving towards Yamosa's stronghold. The distance is about 700 meters. We will arrive there in half an hour, and then we can start the next step. Find a way to delay him. Don't let him get close to Yamosa's stronghold. I will be there soon. Arthur's voice came from the micro-receiver in Giovanna's ear. Roger. Giovanna ended the call and suddenly held her stomach. Wait for me. Charlotte looked back at her. What are you doing? My stomach hurts. I can't stand it anymore. Please wait for me. Giovanna ran behind a few trees anxiously. Charlotte frowned. What's going on? The other 3 women looked at him in confusion, and no one said anything. Giovanna ran behind a few trees. She untied her belt, took off her pants, and squatted on the ground. She didn't plan to do this, but Xia Lei's heaven-defying observation skills on the battlefield suddenly appeared in her mind, and she changed her mind in that short period of time. If she didn't want to arouse Charlotte's suspicions, she had to do something. Thus, her great white deer appeared in the Siberian forest. White snow, white grass, cold wind, and corpses scattered in the forest. The scene was so strange. A hissing sound came from behind the tree trunk. The hot water melted the snow, and the steam produced by the cold air floated out from behind the tree trunk. It was like the mist in the morning. Charlotte stared at the trees. "What are you looking at?" Stella stood in front of Charlotte. Charlotte snorted. "Do you think I still have that kind of interest? Hurry up and follow me. I will go up and take a look." He turned around and walked away. "Wait. How can you leave us behind?" Stella anxiously looked in the direction where Giovanna was peeing. Charlotte didn't look back. His feet trudged forward in the snow. His expression was cold, and the look in his eyes was frighteningly cold. Rosa, Stella, and Teresa were stunned. They didn't know whether they should catch up with Charlotte or wait for Giovanna to finish peeing. Giovanna ran out from behind the trees, fastening her belt as she walked. She was secretly anxious. Pretending to have a stomachache obviously didn't work. What else could she do to restrain Charlotte? 10 minutes later, at 3:00, a team of 30 people came. Arthur, the leader, was talking on a satellite phone as he walked. "His people have been exhausted in the battle with the FA organization. I have asked Giovanna to restrain him. I will catch him in half an hour. This time, he can't escape. He is facing more than 100 of us, and the FA organization's people alone. Humph. He certainly doesn't know that the remaining people of the FA organization are all elite. Otherwise, his people wouldn't have died so quickly. Even we have to pay a heavy price to kill more than a dozen elites of the FA organization. After 2 battles, Yamosa's people are almost exhausted. I have asked the other 2 teams and the people in the stronghold to launch a general attack. Yes, I will contact you as soon as I catch Charlotte." Ending the call, Arthur couldn't help but smile. At this stage of his plan, Charlotte was almost a fish in the net. The knights of the hospital moved very fast and soon arrived at the first place of the fight. "Head Knight, there is a body there." Someone pointed at Akiko Tsukino's body with a gun. "That is the body of Charlotte's woman. Leave her alone. We don't have time to waste. Run," Arthur urged. The knights of the hospital followed the traces in the snow and ran in the direction where Charlotte left. Arthur stepped over Yelena's body, and his eyes paused on Yelena's face for a moment. Yelena's face was pale, and there was a trace of dark red blood at the corner of her mouth. His eyes only paused for a moment and then moved away. Then he drew a cross in front of his chest out of habit. His feet ran on the snow, making a cracking sound, and bringing up clouds of snow. The wind blew over the treetops, making a whistling sound. Just when the last armed knights of the hospital ran over, Yelena and Akiko Tsukino, who were lying on the ground, quietly got up from the snow, raised their guns, and pulled the triggers. Tut tut tut. The storm assault rifle equipped with a silencer did not tremble, but scorching bullets were fired from the muzzle. The armed members of the Knights Hospitaller, who were running at the back, were cut down like wheat being harvested. The people running in the middle and at the front of the team realized that something was wrong and hurriedly turned around. However, before they could fire a shot, bullets flew from the side and the front and mercilessly pierced into their bodies. Blood splattered and the snow melted. The entire battle, from the beginning to the end, took less than 5 seconds. 5 seconds ago, this was still a powerful armed team full of vigor and vitality. They were all the elites of the Knights of the Hospital, and they were the ones that Arthur could keep to capture Charlotte. But now, they were lying on the cold snow of Siberia forever. In 5 seconds, only 3 people in the entire team of Knights of the Hospital fired a few shots, but they did not hit any targets. It was not that their marksmanship was too bad, but that they were being shot from all directions, and they did not know which direction to shoot. It was also in that moment of hesitation that their lives were reaped by the Gale assault rifle. Arthur was the only one in the entire team of Knights of the Hospital who could still stand. He was still alive, but his mind was blank, like a zombie that had lost its soul. Alessio and Angumi Khan appeared from the woods on the left, holding guns in both hands, and approached Arthur step by step. Siamu appeared from the right and also approached Arthur. Erdemo appeared last, and he approached Arthur from the direction that Charlotte had left. Arthur turned around and saw the two female corpses that he had just seen. When he saw Akiko Tsukino and Yelena's faces, he understood everything. He had racked his brains to trick Charlotte into coming to Siberia. He saw Charlotte as his prey, but he did not expect that before he could catch his prey, he would fall into the hands of his prey. Could there be anything more ironic than this? "What are you doing?" Arthur suddenly roared. "We are here to help you. Why are you doing this?" "Put down the gun," Alessio said in Italian. "Bastard! What right do you have to order me?" Arthur raised the Gale assault rifle in his hand. Bang! With a soft sound, a bullet shot out from the Gale assault rifle in Angumi Khan's hand and instantly hit Arthur's wrist. The Gale assault rifle in Arthur's hand fell to the ground. The fear that had been suppressed in his heart suddenly erupted, and his face instantly lost all color. "Be honest and you can live. If you are not, I will cut your throat," Alessio said. Arthur looked at his compatriot blankly, and his mind was blank. At this time, Erdemo suddenly opened his mouth, and a needle flew out from his mouth and stabbed into Arthur's neck. Arthur's body swayed for a moment, and then he closed his eyes and fell to the ground. A delicate metal tube slid out of Erdemo's mouth. He puffed up his cheeks and blew into it. The metal tube suddenly emitted a sharp sound that sounded like a bird's cry. This was a signal that the battle was over. It traveled far and wide. "It's done." Yelena kicked Arthur, who had fallen to the ground. "You made me lie in the snow for so long. Don't you know how cold it was? You will suffer for scheming against us." Alessio picked Arthur up and put him on his shoulder. "Let's go. Now we just need to wait for Boss to finish." Yelena said, "I am not worried about him at all. In this world, the only people who can kill him are Long Bing, those two German women, and that Fan. Maybe there is also. I forgot the name, but it is definitely not Yamosa." The other 5 people looked at her in confusion. Yelena shrugged. "Pretend I didn't say anything." Chapter 794. Hearing the bird-like sound, a smile appeared on Charlotte's lips, and the stone in his heart quietly fell to the ground. Looking back, he looked a little nervous. "I think I heard gunshots just now. What happened?" Xiale also looked back and said, "I can't see anything. It should be your people who have come and exchanged fire with the people of the FA organization." Stella said, "Didn't you and your people kill all the enemies in that area?" Charlotte said, "I don't know. Did they run into a bear?" "Ouch!" Giovanna covered her stomach again. "Wait for me." She ran behind a few trees nearby. Snow and snow, hot water and cold air, the erotic scene was playing out again in this corner of Siberia. The female knight, who was squatting on the ground and peeing, spoke into the communicator on her winter suit. "Head Knight, we are approaching Yamosa's stronghold." No one responded. "Head Knight?" Still no one responded. Giovanna's heart sank. Charlotte took 2 steps sideways, chose a position where he could see Giovanna, and said loudly, "Miss Giovanna, what did you eat last night? Did you have a stomachache?" Stella stood in front of Charlotte, her blue eyes wide open. "What are you looking at?" "Your sister's butt," said Charlotte, with a smirk on his lips. "So white." Stella said, You think I'm lecherous, then I'll show you." "Dirty," said Teresa, her eyes fierce. Charlotte smiled. "Are you deliberately stalling for time? Are you waiting for someone? Or, do you have any plans that I don't know?" "What nonsense are you talking about?" Rosa said angrily. "We are allies. We are helping you." Charlotte sneered. "Helping me? I paid $50 million, and you wanted the holy relic. You didn't help for nothing. Stop quarreling." Giovanna walked out from behind a few trees, holding up her pant. "Mr. Xia, please don't question our sincerity. We have a very firm faith. We are not the kind of people you think we are." Charlotte spread his hands and turned to walk toward the foot of the mountain. He did not want to argue with them. He believed that they were people of faith, but they had no integrity. Faith and integrity were two different things. "What happened?" Rosa lowered her voice. "Why haven't our people come yet? If we go any further, we will enter the FA organization's position. Once we exchange fire with the people of the FA organization, the consequences will be unpredictable," Teresa said. Once they exchanged fire, Xia Lei might be caught by the FA organization or even killed by Yamosa. No matter which outcome it was, it would be disadvantageous for the Knights Hospitaller. Rosa, Teresa, and Stella eyes all focused on Stella. Giovanna shook her head, her voice full of worry. "We can't get in touch." "How is that possible?" Teresa's voice was heard. Giovanna said, "Now we can only hope that the FA organization cut off our communication with jamming equipment, otherwise." Charlotte turned around. "Hey, are you going or not?" "Don't say anything. We have aroused his suspicion." Giovanna walked toward Charlotte. Continuing to walk forward, the four women looked back from time to time, but the person they wanted to see never appeared. Half an hour passed. The foot of the mountain was in front of them. The vegetation was dense, and the ground was covered with thick snow. Looking up, they could not see anyone on the mountain or hiding in the forest. "Don't go any further," Giovanna said. "We are sure that this is the FA organization's stronghold. Ramosa and her people are on this mountain. Wait for our people to complete the encirclement, and then attack," Stella said. Charlotte suddenly shouted, Charlotte, am coming." The four women were startled by him. But before anyone could stop him, Charlotte raised the Gale assault rifle in his hand and fired at the sky. Then he shouted again, "Ramosa, didn't you want me to come? I am coming. Get out." Is he crazy? The same thought popped up in the minds of the Grey sisters and the Russo sisters at the same time. The gunshots and Charlotte's roar echoed in the mountains, spreading far away. If Ramosa was really on this mountain, then she must have heard Charlotte's voice and the provocative gunshots. Giovanna rushed up and grabbed Charlotte's gun. "What are you doing? Are you crazy?" Charlotte looked at the hillside, a strange smile on his lips. "It's too late. She and her people are already here." Stella also raised the binoculars in her hand and looked into the distance. With the help of the binoculars, in her field of vision, there was already movement on the hillside. Several gunmen in snow camouflage suits were moving down the hillside. Charlotte's eyes quickly swept to the left and right side. In his field of vision, there were also movements on the left and right sides of the hillside. There were no less than 30 gunmen on both sides. The Knights Hospitaller's intelligence was wrong. Last night, he eavesdropped on the video call between Arthur and Angelio, and Arthur said that there were more than 20 people in the FA organization. On the way here, he had killed more than 10 people, but now there were more than 30 people around Ramosa. With the combat skills of the FA organization's independent agents, plus the terrain advantage, Ramosa was actually not afraid of the siege of the Knights Hospitaller and the mercenaries at all. Now it seemed that Ramosa was deliberately pretending to be weak, just waiting for him to come. It was too far away to see Ramosa, but Charlotte was sure that she was among the gunmen moving down. A sneer appeared at the corner of Charlotte's mouth. Ramosa's arrangement was actually not very clever. She just took advantage of his desire to kill her for revenge and her confidence in her own strength. "They are coming. My God, they still have more than 30 people." Stella became nervous. "Our previous intelligence was wrong. How can they still have so many people?" Rosa also became nervous. "Get ready to fight." Giovanna's voice sounded. "It's useless. There are only 5 of us. We are no match for them at all." Teresa's voice was not only nervous, but also a little afraid. The only one who was calm among the five was Charlotte. He said lightly, "The people from the FA organization are coming. I am their target. If you run now, it is not too late." Rosa said angrily, "We Knights Hospitaller will never run on the battlefield. It's all your fault. Why didn't you act according to our plan? Why did you lure Ramosa and her people down here?" Teresa was also very angry. Charlotte shrugged. "If I don't lure her down, do I still have to fight a siege? Ramosa and her people are occupying the high ground. It will be difficult for us to attack. I don't want you to die. You are gifts from the Knights Hospitaller, which means you are my women." "Shut up," Stella said angrily. "Do you still have the mood to talk about this now? We are Knights of the Knights Hospitaller. Not goods, and definitely not your woman." Teresa's voice was laced with anger. Charlotte smiled. "Be it goods or knights, in short, you are gifts from the Knights Hospitaller." After saying that, he raised the Gale assault rifle in his hand and fired at the sky. Bang bang bang, the deafening sound of gunfire broke the peace here, and once again showed his position to the people from the FA organization. "You're crazy, you're crazy." It was Giovanna's voice. Charlotte said, "If you want to live, immediately let Arthur bring his people here to fight." Giovanna wanted to say something but stopped on second thought. She had tried to contact him several times, but she couldn't get in touch with him even once. "Well, let's assume that he is already dead," Charlotte said. "Now who should be in charge of the Knights Hospitaller?" Giovanna hesitated for a moment before saying, "The four of us." Charlotte said, "Well, I think you are the most assertive. Let's assume that Arthur has been killed by the people from the FA organization. Your people can't be without a leader, so you will be the leader. Immediately give the order to your people to come here and join the battle." Giovanna didn't move. She couldn't make up her mind. Ciale said sternly, "If you don't do this, your people will all die here, and we will all die here. Tell your people to come here. We are fighting the FA organization here, and your people have the advantage in numbers and equipment." Giovanna glanced at the other three women, and the four women made eye contact. "You guys continue to discuss. I'm going to the bathroom." Charlotte turned around and left. The four women rolled their eyes at his back. Giovanna took out the communicator from her cold-proof suit, changed the channel, and then said in a deep voice, "This is Giovanna. Now I will command this battle on behalf of Arthur. I want you to go to the FA organization's stronghold immediately and join the battle." Charlotte turned around and said, "Tell them that if they kill a person from the FA organization, I will give them a reward of $500,000, and if they kill a leader, I will give them a reward of $1 million. If they kill or capture Yamoso alive, I will give them a reward of $10 million. Giovanna then conveyed Charlotte's words. For Charlotte, the elites of the Knights Hospitaller no longer existed. There were only a dozen or so ordinary armed men left, and most of them were mercenaries, killers, and members of armed organizations. These were all desperados, and it was very simple to make these people work for him. Money. Now, was a problem that could be solved with money still a problem for him? Soon, a response came from the communicator. Charlotte walked to a piece of snow, opened his zipper, and poured water on a piece of snow. A column of water drew a 2-meter-long parabola in the air and fell on the snow. The snow quickly melted, and a cloud of water vapor rose. "Can't you solve your problem somewhere else?" Stella frowned. The nearly straight stream of water in the air not only stimulated her, but also the other three women. "You're really hopeless. At this time, you still have the mood to disgust us." Rosa's voice was heard. Charlotte turned around and looked at the four women. "All right, I'll go behind the tree and solve it. By the way, do you have paper? I have bullets. Do you want them?" Teresa could not take it any more. "All right, I'll solve it with leaves." Charlotte zipped up and walked behind a row of trees. "Hurry up. Yamosa and her people are coming," Giovanna said anxiously. "I got it. I'll get it done quickly. Charlotte's voice came from behind the tree. Bang, bang, bang. Gunshots suddenly rang out. Several bullets flew over the four women's heads and bodies, making whooshing sounds. The four women threw themselves to the ground, then separated and used the trees and rocks as cover to return fire. Damn it! After firing a few shots, Giovanna turned around and shouted at Charlotte, "They're coming!" No one responded. Mr. Xia? Still no one responded. Chapter 795. The bullets were like rain, whizzing non-stop. The Gray sisters and the Russo sisters were suppressed by the FA organization's firepower. The four women, while firing back, looked back at Charlotte from time to time. Charlotte still didn't show up. He seemed to have encountered something, constipation. Damn it! Rosa roared, "Mr. Xia, what are you still hiding there for? The FA organization's people are coming. Do you want us all to die here?" Teresa's voice sounded. But no matter how anxious and nervous the four women were, Charlotte seemed to have evaporated from the earth, inexplicably disappearing. Damn it, that guy must have left us behind and ran away alone. Stella punched the snow in front of her, and a pit suddenly appeared in front of her. This was indeed a pit. A pit that specialized in trapping women. Charlotte did slip away. This was also the first time he had left his comrades on the battlefield. However, the women of the Gray family and the Russo family were trapping him in the front, and he was trapping them in the back. They colluded with Arthur to harm him. Was it still necessary for him to fight side by side with them? Puff, puff, puff. The snow in front of Giovanna splashed up with snow and mud. The sudden bullets almost killed her. The dirt under the snow splattered on her face, and it was a burning pain. She buried her head, and the accumulated anger in her heart finally erupted. "Charlotte, I'm going to F***CKU. In such a hurry, Charlotte left them behind and slipped away. In such a situation, even the Holy Virgin wanted to curse. Rosa suddenly appeared and raised her gun to shoot. A gunman from the FA organization who had just rushed out from behind a tree was shot to the ground by her. But in the next second, a stream of bullets flew past her scalp. Boom! With an explosion, two gunmen from the FA organization who were shooting at Rosa were blown into the sky by a shell. The reinforcements had finally arrived, but it was not Charlotte. Instead, it was the mercenaries, killers, and armed men who were stimulated by the bounty. "Kill!" Giovanna raised her arms and roared. "Kill them! Mr. Xia has offered a bounty of $30 million. $50 million. Teresa yelled out an even more exaggerated number. It wasn't their money anyway, so they didn't feel bad about spending it. A large group of red-eyed gunmen rushed to the FA organization's position. Bullets, artillery shells, grenades, rockets, and pieces of wood flew around in the sky like a swarm of drunken locusts, flying here and there. Some people fell, some flew into the sky, some lost their arms and legs, and some had their heads blossomed. The battle raged on like a raging inferno, but the one who started it wasn't here. A few hundred meters away, on a 30-meter-tall pine tree, Xia Lei's left hand blocked the light coming from the sky as he concentrated on the battle that was really going on. Seeing a gunman from the FA organization fall to the ground with his legs blown off, he couldn't help but make a sound. "That's amazing!" Fighting in such a terrain, the bandits with the Hellhound cannon is equivalent to having several tanks. The firepower of the FA organization is too weak. They can't stop it at all. He wondered how the mercenaries, killers, and armed men who were fighting would feel if they heard this. A woman suddenly came into his sight, and in almost a second, the XL 2500 sniper rifle in his hand locked on the woman. But he didn't pull the trigger in the end. The woman was a gunman from the FA organization, but she was not Yamosa. His target was Yamosa, not one of her men. He didn't want to expose his current position by shooting one of her men. The communicator vibrated, accompanied by a soft beep. Charlotte took the communicator in his hand. "This is 001. Key. 005 has taken the prey away. We are in position." It was Siamu's voice. "Good. Now we just need to wait for her to show up." End of call. Charlotte put away the communicator. Everything was ready. Now they just needed to wait for Yamosa to show up. Charlotte's eyes moved to the battlefield. Although he was a few hundred meters away, he could clearly see the situation on the battlefield. Although the people from the FA organization were more skilled in combat, the miscellaneous army gathered by the Knights Hospitaller had the advantage in numbers and weapons. In such a short time, the people from the FA organization who had just rushed down had left more than a dozen bodies, and then began to retreat. Yamosa never showed up. Xia Lei furrowed his brows. "That guy is probably hiding in a corner like me, peeping at the battlefield, looking for me, and then shooting me from the back. Or, does she have any other plans that I can't guess?" While observing the battlefield, Charlotte's brain was also running fast, analyzing Yamosa's motive, plan, and possible hiding places. But at this moment, an armed man from the Knights Hospitaller was suddenly shot in the head by a bullet. That bullet had blown off his entire head, leaving only his lips attached to his neck. It was a ghastly sight to behold. It was not a rifle bullet, but a bullet fired from an anti-material sniper rifle. Charlotte then moved his eyes to the hillside. The hillside was covered with dense vegetation, and his sight could not penetrate the thick snow-covered canopy. There was no vegetation near the top of the hill, and there were steep cliffs and cliffs, some of which were covered with snow, making it almost impossible to climb. Charlotte gave a thumbs up in the direction of the top of the hill, and his brain quickly calculated the result. His current position was about 4,500 meters away from the top of the hill. This distance had already exceeded the maximum range of the XL 2500 sniper rifle that he had personally modified. The XL 2500 sniper rifle was the world's best sniper rifle, and almost no sniper rifle could match its performance. But this did not mean that it was the world's longest-range sniper rifle. The anti-material sniper rifle's range was more than 3,000 meters, or even 4,000 meters. At present, a 14.9 SOP long-range sniper rifle in the United States had a range of an astonishing 5,000 meters. Its caliber was an astonishing 14.9 millimeters, and the bullet could still maintain supersonic speed after flying for 5,000 meters. Charlotte's heart skipped a beat. Could it be that Yamosa has the latest 14.9 SOP long-range sniper rifle in her hands? Could she hide outside of my firing range and snipe the Knights Hospitaller? It was not impossible, but it was very likely. Yamosa had fought with him many times, and how could she not know how powerful his marksmanship was? The safest way to fight with him was to stay out of the range of his XL 2500 sniper rifle. And in order to do this, a long-range sniper rifle with a range of more than 4,000 meters, or even 5,000 meters, must be equipped. Just as he was analyzing this possibility, a muffled sound suddenly came from the top of the hill. 2 seconds later, a grenade exploded in the charging crowd of Knights Hospitaller. Several soldiers and armed personnel were blasted into pieces, their organs and brains spilled all over the ground. Not only did she have a long-range sniper rifle, but she also had a special grenade launcher. She fired it from the top of the hill, and the grenade moved along a parabola, so she could blow up the target at the foot of the hill in one glance. Charlotte's gaze moved up, and he quickly locked onto a place. It was the highest point of the entire hill, about 4,500 meters away from his current position. This distance was the limit of his left eye's visual range. He could see it, but he could not see it very clearly. His gaze swept across the highest point of the hill, and then moved back, locking onto a target. It was snow covering a rock, but it was obviously not snow, but snow camouflage clothing. Because that rock was located at the highest point of the hill, The wind seemed to constantly blow against it, and there was almost no chance for snow to cover its surface. Moreover, its surface area was extremely large. Everywhere else was brown rock, but that area was covered in snow. This was clearly not normal. Then, he saw a sniper rifle poking out from beneath the camouflage clothing. It was at least 2 meters long, and the barrel was astonishingly long. As expected, it was the 14.9 SOP long-range sniper rifle he had predicted. He didn't see Yamosa's face, but he was already sure that the pile of snow covering the rock was Yamosa. Yamosa finally appeared, but Charlotte was worried. She hid outside of the XL 2500 sniper rifle's range, so he had no way of sniping her from this position. Meanwhile, she could use the 14.9 SOP long-range sniper rifle in her hands to snipe him, or even use a grenade to blast him flying. He was secretly glad that he didn't shoot the woman just now, or else his position would have been exposed. With the power of the 14.9 SOP long-range sniper rifle in Yamosa's hands, the tree in front of her and him would probably have been torn apart by the special bullets. You shot the Knight's Hospitaller. Are you trying to lure me out, or are you just trying to weaken the Knight's Hospitaler's combat power? No matter what your motive is, if you dare to show yourself, you're dead. Charlotte didn't stay for long, and he slid down from the tree. Boom! On the battlefield, another grenade exploded among the crowd. A mercenary's leg was blown off, and a Knight's Hospitaler's stomach was cut open by the shrapnel, and his intestines leaked out. Damn it! Rosa said angrily. I can't see that sniper at all. He's using an anti-material sniper rifle. It must be Yamosa. Giovanna's voice was heard. She's high up and she's out of our range. We can't do anything to her. Do you still want our people to continue charging? Teresa said anxiously. We've already lost a lot of people. If this continues, I'm afraid we'll all die here. Where the hell did that bastard Charlotte go? He's the best sniper on our side, but he escaped. Teresa gritted her teeth in hatred. If I can survive, I'll definitely break his neck. Boom! Another grenade exploded, and an armed Knight's Hospitaller flew up. One of his legs drew a parabola in the air, and then smashed into the head of Teresa, who was shouting that she would break Charlotte's neck. Blood was smeared all over her face, and half of the man's body came into her sight without any cover. Teresa was about to go crazy. Everyone, hide. Giovanna finally gave the order. Wait for my order before acting. The Knight's Hospitaller stopped charging, and the FA organization took the opportunity to retreat to the hillside. In the battle just now, they had lost half of their members, and the Knight's Hospitaller had also lost half of their members. In terms of the price, the Knight's Hospitaller's attack was actually a failure. At the same time, a figure quickly ran to the side of the hill. He only had an XL 2500 sniper rifle, a Viper pistol, and a saber on him. He threw away most of his equipment in exchange for speed. I've found Yamosa. She's at the top of this hill. She has a 14.9 SOP long-range sniper rifle and a grenade launcher. Be careful, I'll go up first. As his voice fell, Charlotte suddenly sped up. His figure was like a hunting cheetah. The target had appeared, and the hunt began. Chapter 796. The sound of gunfire disappeared, and the forest returned to peace. The Knight's Hospitaller didn't dare to charge rashly, and the FA organization didn't dare to attack the Knight's Hospitaller's position either. They were too few in number. The fierce battle no longer existed, and the two sides fell into a stalemate. The brief calm also added a strange atmosphere to the forest. The smell of blood spread in the wind, which made people nervous and depressed. On the top of the mountain, Yamosa lay motionless on the rock, the cold wind whistling in her ears. Although she had a snow-proof suit and camouflage suit to block the wind, the temperature on the top of the mountain was too low, which made her very uncomfortable. But even if her hands and feet were frozen, she endured it. Her eyes were constantly observing the nearly 180-degree fan-shaped area in front of her. But this was only the close area. Beyond the normal range of vision, she needed the help of a sniper scope to observe. She didn't have eyes like Charlotte, but she had extremely rich experience. However, experience couldn't make up for the gap in vision. Until now, she hadn't found Charlotte. "Come out, let me break your leg and then take you back. Don't you want to kill me? Come out and kill me," she said to herself, using this way to relieve the pressure on her body and mind. Facing an enemy like Charlotte, anyone would be under great pressure. She was no exception to this point. Suddenly, a gunshot came from the forest on the left. In the FA organization's position, a gunman was knocked down on the ground. The unlucky guy had just popped his head out to look down when a bullet flew over and blew up his head. Bang, 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 gunshots rang out in the FA organization's position, and a dozen surviving gunmen raised their guns out of cover and obstacles, blindly shooting at the foot of the mountain. They thought the shot was made by the Knight's Hospitaller. Yamosa's eyes moved to the left the moment the gunshot rang out. Through the sniper scope of the 14.9 SOP long-range sniper rifle, she soon saw a fast-moving figure. The figure was very fast. He was wearing a white hood and his face could not be seen. The next second, Yamosa adjusted his gun and fired a shot 10 meters in front of the figure. However, just as she fired the shot, the figure suddenly turned around and ran in the opposite direction before the bullet could reach its intended target. It wasn't until he ran 10 meters away that the bullet flew past the predetermined place and hit a coniferous pine tree that was as thick as the mouth of a bowl. Crackle! With a crisp sound, the coniferous pine tree, which was as thick as the mouth of a bowl, was actually snapped in half, and the huge tree crown crashed onto the snowy ground. "It's him?" Yamasha had a preliminary judgment in her heart, but she wasn't sure. Although the speed of that figure was fast, it was still slower than the Charlotte in her memory. Moreover, with Charlotte's cunning, why would he take such a risk? Sniping a worthless gunner and making himself a target? However, just as she was feeling puzzled, another gunshot came from the left side of the mountain forest. Yamosa also aimed her scope in that direction, and she soon saw another figure running at high speed. That figure's speed was just as fast as the previous one, and his movements were also extremely nimble. He would never run in a straight line for more than 3 seconds. This kind of movement trajectory made it impossible for her, a sniper who was thousands of meters away, to snipe him. However, she still fired. The other party had appeared in her sniping range and was even shooting her people at high speed. This was an intolerable provocation to her. Bang! The 14.9 SOP long-range sniper rifle released a deafening gunshot. A special rifle bullet flew out and 2 seconds later, it hit a large tree next to the second target. Although it didn't hit the second target, the wooden thorns that flew out from the tree trunk pierced the person's body and flipped him onto the ground. "You're courting death." Yamasha grabbed the grenade launcher beside her, and almost without thinking, she pulled the trigger. Bang! A grenade drew a parabola in the sky and then fell straight over the head of the second target. The second target suddenly rolled on the ground and quickly left the ground where he had been knocked down. Boom! The grenade exploded, fire and smoke rose, and rocks, sand, and shrapnel were shot in all directions. Bang! Bang! Gunshots rang out and it was still on the left. The third, fourth, and fifth targets appeared one after another. A woman and 2 men, all of whom were also wearing white headgear for easy movement in the snow, and their faces could not be seen. The 3 targets were also moving very fast. As they ran, they fired at the FA organization camp. All 3 of them were using Gale assault rifles. In the gunshots, 2 more FA organization gunners were knocked down to the ground. Compared with these 5 people, the difference between the FA organization gunners and the professional special forces was like the difference between a reserve and a professional special force. Xia Changhe's people. Charlotte must be among them. You want to break into the firing range of an XL 2500 sniper rifle in this way? Dream on. Yimasha's eyes were about to burst into flames. Yimasha put down the grenade launcher in her hand and picked up a remote control device. A sneer appeared on the corner of her mouth, and then she pressed a red switch. Boom, boom, boom. Amidst the violent explosion, flames and thick smoke from the explosives rose up, and trees were toppled to the ground. It was as if more than a dozen cannons were bombarding the area. At the foot of the mountain, in the camp of the Knights of the Hospital, everyone was dumbfounded. Those who could still breathe were glad that they didn't rush up the mountain through that part of the forest. The terrain of the forest on the left was the smoothest, and it was the best way to go up the mountain. Who is fighting with the FA organization in that forest over there? Giovanna looked at the forest on the left side of the slope with a surprised expression, but she could see no one except for the fire and smoke. Is it that guy? Rosa said. Are you talking about Charlotte? Stella said. Who else could it be? Teresa said angrily. That guy left us here and sneaked to the left side. He probably wanted to sneak attack the people of the FA organization and Yimasha, but unfortunately, he deserved it. Will he die? It was Giovanna's voice. This sentence suddenly made the four women quiet down. There was no doubt that Charlotte had annoyed these four women during this time. They didn't lack the thought of beating him up, but none of them really wanted him dead. Even Stella, who had been molested by Charlotte's fingers, didn't have this kind of thought. And from the perspective of the interests of the Knights of the Hospital, they absolutely didn't want Charlotte to be killed by the people of the FA organization. Are we going to support him? Rosa's voice sounded. Giovanna seemed very hesitant. If they supported Charlotte, they would have to face the attack of the FA organization's gunmen, as well as the attack of Yimasha on the high ground. Once he entered the forest, who could be sure that he could still leave alive? But just when Giovanna was hesitating whether to make this decision or not, gunshots suddenly came from the forest on the left. He's still alive, Giovanna said excitedly. Let's divert some of the pressure on him and attack the position of the FA organization's gunmen. The Knights of the Hospital launched another attack. The scene suddenly became heated. The line of gunmen of the FA organization was already under attack from the left side of the forest, and now they had to face the attack from the foot of the mountain. They, who were already short of men and guns, suddenly fell into a desperate situation. More and more people fell into pools of blood. Their counterattacks lacked a sense of direction, and they seemed powerless. On the top of the mountain, Yimasha's eyes suddenly widened, and her face was full of surprise. There were a lot of mines on the mountainside on the left side, which she had prepared for the people of the hospital Knights. She had detonated those mines just now, but the 5 guys were still alive. The explosion was over, and they were moving in the forest on the left side again. They continued to advance toward the top of the mountain, and her people were getting fewer and fewer under the killing of the 5 people, and she could hardly resist the charge of the hospital Knights. Damn it! He must be among them. Without his command, how could those guys escape? Yimasha's voice was as cold as the snow. She was the ace killer of the FA organization, and she would hardly show any emotional fluctuations when she killed people, but she couldn't do this when she was facing Charlotte. Bang! The 14.9 SOP long-range sniper rifle vibrated, and a special bullet was shot out. The battle continued in this way, and it would not end until the last person of the enemy was killed. The 5 targets on the left were like 5 annoying flies to Yimasha, flying around in her field of vision, but it was very difficult to kill them. She somewhat regretted choosing such a long distance. If she had been closer, the bullet wouldn't need to fly for so long, and she would have killed the 5 guys. 10 minutes passed. After an hour, Yimasha suddenly stopped shooting, and her expression stiffened. Although the 5 people were advancing at a very fast speed, their circuitous route was far beyond their forward route. They had been fighting with her for such a long time, but they hadn't even crossed the FA organization's position. Their sudden appearance naturally made them her targets, but there was another possibility, that was, they deliberately became her targets in order to divert her attention. The cold wind was blowing, and this was the only sound on the top of the mountain. Yamasha's ears twitched, and the sound of the wind seemed to be blocked in her ears. The whole world on the top of the mountain was also quiet, so quiet that even a pin drop could be heard. Crack! A crisp sound. It was the sound of feet stepping into the snow. It was almost inaudible, but for Yamasha, it was undoubtedly a bolt of lightning that tore the void in the quiet night. At that moment, Yamasha suddenly rolled away from the rock, and when her body was facing the sky, her large modified pistol was also aimed in the direction of the sound. Boom! A gunshot. A rock was smashed into pieces, and fragments flew everywhere. There was no one, it was just a fist-sized stone that somehow flew up. However, when she saw the stone, Yamasha's heart fell into an icy valley. At that moment, fear and despair were like the ray of light piercing through the darkness at dawn, penetrating her entire world. Bang! Gunshot. Chapter 797. Blood splattered everywhere. The gun wasn't Yamosa's gun. The blood was Yamosa's blood. A bullet hit her right palm, and it was a sniper rifle bullet. It blew off the middle finger and index finger of her right hand, as well as a third of her palm. The modified pistol fell to the ground. Yamosa suddenly bounced up from the ground and used her left hand to pick up the gun. Her hand was still as nimble as ever, and it was impossible to tell that she was injured. Bang bang! 2 gunshots rang out. One bullet hit the modified pistol on the rock, and the other hit Yamosa's right calf. Yamosa staggered backwards and looked to her right. A familiar face entered her line of sight, and her heart was cold without a trace of hope. Charlotte walked out from behind a rock, holding an XL 2500 sniper rifle in one hand and a Viper pistol in the other. There wasn't a trace of expression on his face, and he was just like the brown rock beneath Yamosa's feet, cold and hard. He walked towards Yamosa step by step, and his aura increased with each step he took. Yamosa dragged her shot right foot towards the 14.9 SOP long-range sniper rifle, but what she wanted wasn't the 14.9 SOP long-range sniper rifle, but the grenade launcher next to it. As long as she could pick up the grenade launcher, she didn't need to aim at Charlotte. She only needed to fire once on the ground between them, and she would be able to take him down with her. A smile suddenly appeared on Charlotte's face. He raised his left hand slightly, and a bullet flew out from the Viper pistol, hitting the grenade launcher and knocking it off the rock. Do it. Yamosa looked very calm. Xiaolei shook his head. You've forgotten what I've told you before. Yamosa looked at Charlotte coldly. Charlotte said, I said that I would cut you up bit by bit and feed you to the dogs. There aren't any dogs here, but there are knives. He tossed away the XL 2500 sniper rifle and slowly pulled out a military knife. You are still a man. Come. Yamosa pulled out her military knife with her left hand, and then she roared at Charlotte. Come and kill me. Kill me with a knife. Charlotte didn't move and said indifferently, Do you want to fight with me? Yamosa was momentarily stunned. Bang! A gunshot rang out, and a bullet struck Yamosa's left arm. Yamosa's knife fell to the ground. I just want to kill you. I don't want to fight you. I have a gun but I don't use it. Am I stupid? Charlotte said. As soon as he finished speaking, he fired another shot, hitting Yamosa's left knee. Yamosa fell to the ground, but did not make a sound. She looked coldly at Charlotte, her eyes filled with hatred and anger. Your eyes are quite scary, but what's the use? Charlotte put the Viper pistol back into the holster and walked toward Yamosa with the knife. Pulling himself up with his elbows, Yamosa began to crawl along the edge of the rock. Below the rock was a 100-meter-high cliff, which was the easiest way to end his life. 3 meters, 2 meters, but when she was still a meter away from the edge, one of her feet was grabbed, and she could no longer crawl forward even an inch. Charlotte grabbed Yamosa's feet and dragged her back. Yamosa used her blood to draw a trail on the rock and snow. Xia Lei stopped on the snowy ground and used his foot to flip Yamosa over. "Give me a quick death," Yamosa said coldly. Even now, there was not the slightest fear on her face. Charlotte squatted down and pressed the knife to her neck. "It's not impossible. I can cut your carotid artery in one go, and your blood will flow out in 90 seconds. There will be no pain in this way. However, you have to tell me where the headquarters of the FA organization is. In exchange, tell me, and I will give you a quick death." "Ha ha ha!" Yamasha suddenly laughed. Her laughter and her expression gave off a morbid feeling. Charlotte stabbed the knife in his hand into Yamosa's thigh, bit by bit. Blood flowed out from the gap between the knife and the flesh, dyeing the snow on the ground red. Huff! Huff! The severe pain made Yamosa's heart react. Her heartbeat accelerated, and her breathing became rapid. However, she still did not cry out. There may be fear in her heart, but it could not be seen on her face or in her eyes. Charlotte stabbed a third of the knife into her thigh and said coldly, "You are suffering here now. What can the FA organization do for you? You are not a loyal person. You don't need to keep any secrets for the FA organization. Tell me where the headquarters of the FA organization is, and I will give you a quick death." "Are you really going to cut me piece by piece?" Yamosa's tone was provocative. Xia Lei fiercely stabbed his saber into Yamosa's thigh. Yamosa's body trembled. She opened her mouth and kept inhaling. "Tell me," Charlotte roared at her. "It's in hell. Go to hell to find it." Yamosa laughed morbidly. "You said you were going to cut me piece by piece. I am here. Do it." Charlotte pulled out the knife and stabbed it into Yamosa's lower abdomen. However, just as the knife was about to pierce into Yamosa's lower abdomen, he stopped. "You are not that kind of cruel person. You can't do it. You cut me to death one slash at a time. You'll never forget what you've done. I will become your nightmare, every night will appear in your dreams. Do you want to live the rest of your life like that?" Charlotte was silent. He did say that he was going to cut her piece by piece and feed her to the dogs, but if he really wanted to do it, he couldn't bring himself to do it. This was definitely not because he was merciful to a person like Yamosa, but because such an approach had crossed a person's bottom line. It was something that only a pervert would do. If he really did that, he would definitely be troubled by this matter for the rest of his life, and she would really become his nightmare. "Ha ha ha!" Yamosa sneered. "You can't do it at all. You shot me 3 times and stabbed me once. I am losing blood. At this rate, I won't live long. If you want to do that, you have to hurry. Do you know? When I cut off Amanda's and Park Taeyong's heads, their eyes were still staring at me. Don't you want to avenge them? Come on, cut me with your knife, come on." But as Yamosa roared, Charlotte calmed down. He stood up and smiled. "Even in death, you still want to play psychological warfare with me. You're really good. You're right, I am not someone who can do that kind of thing, but I don't want to give you a quick death. What do you think I should do?" Yamosa stared coldly at Charlotte. Charlotte put away his knife. "You want me to fend for myself here? In your dreams." Charlotte suddenly opened his zipper, and a stream of hot water splashed onto Yamosa's face. The hot water hit Yamosa's face, drilling into her nostrils and mouth. She wanted to dodge, but wherever her head moved, the hot water chased after her. It was like a missile that had locked onto its target, and there was no way to dodge. After a full minute, Charlotte finished pouring the hot water. He shivered and pulled up his zipper. Yamosa, whose whole head was wet, glared at Charlotte, her eyes almost spewing fire. Her pride, her glory, were all extinguished by Charlotte's urine. As for her, when faced with a man who peed on her, she could only look on helplessly, unable to do anything. Anger, hatred, unwillingness, and other negative emotions suddenly welled up in her heart, torturing her and bringing her pain. Charlotte stepped on her chest, and her 2 round breasts suddenly flattened under his foot. Do you think I can't find the headquarters of the FA organization if you don't tell me where it is? The believers of the Knights Hospitaller are all over the world, and they have their own intelligence system. They will soon find your headquarters for me. Do you think I will do that? Bah! Yamosa raised her neck and spat a mouthful of blood at Charlotte. Charlotte didn't dodge. He said lightly, once it is found, more mercenaries, killers, and armed forces will go to that place. I don't even have to do it myself. I can wipe the FA organization off the face of the earth. You're dreaming. Even the CIA can't do it, and you think you can? If the UA really wants to destroy you, do you think you can still exist? The UA needs people like you to do evil. Otherwise, when the world is at peace, what will the world police do? The former Al-Qaeda, the current Islamic State, which one of them has nothing to do with the UA? It's not that the CIA can't do it, but that they don't want to destroy you at all. I'm willing to do what the CIA doesn't want to do. Unfortunately, you won't be able to see it, Charlotte said. A sneer appeared at the corner of Yamosa's mouth. You will die. Charlotte said disdainfully, ha ha. You have hunted my father for so many years, and my father is still alive. With such strength, do you still expect the FA organization to avenge you? Yamosa looked away from Charlotte. She looked at the sky, and snowflakes danced in her sight. She was waiting for the last moment that belonged to her to come. Charlotte squatted down and took off her clothes. Yamosa suddenly became nervous. What are you going to do? Charlotte didn't speak. He tore off her bra, and her full snow-white breasts were immediately exposed. Ha ha ha! Yamosa laughed crazily again. You want to F***ck me? Come on, come on. Xia Lei tore her bra open and used a piece of cloth to cover her wounds. All of her wounds. What are you going to do? Charlotte said, You are too dirty. Only dirtier men will be willing to F***ck you. I will bandage your wounds and buy you a little more time. The mercenaries and members of the armed forces at the foot of the mountain will definitely like you. I will give you to them. Whoever F***ck you, I will give them $500. Let's see how much money they can make from me. Yamosa's face suddenly turned pale. The fear that she had been suppressing also emerged from her heart, and then appeared in her eyes. Xia Lei dragged her feet down and said with a smile, I'm thinking, will those inhumane guys not even let go of your corpse? After all, $500 is not a small amount. Ah, Yamosa roared. It's useless even if you scream. What you did to Amanda and Pu Taiyong, I will return it to you tenfold. Why don't you tell me where the headquarters of the FA organization is, and I can still give you a quick death? Charlotte said as he dragged Yamosa over the rock. But right at this moment, Yamosa suddenly smashed into the corner of the rock. Bang! A muffled sound. Blood spurted out from her forehead, and her head drooped down powerlessly. Xia Lei turned to look at Yamosa. Her forehead had already caved in, and blood was flowing out of her forehead. Blood was also flowing out of her mouth and nose. She was dead. F***ck, you're really ruthless. Xia Lei let out a depressed sigh as he threw away Yamosa's foot that was in his hand. On the mountainside, the sisters of the Grey and Russo families were climbing up with a large group of armed men. Behind them, there were the bodies of the FA organization members. Chapter 798. The Grey sisters and the Russo sisters led their men to the top of the mountain. It was quiet on the top of the mountain. Yamosa's body lay quietly in the snow, her open chest revealing a large area of white. After losing a large amount of blood, her plump chest was lying softly on her chest. It had lost the pink and tender feeling it had when she was alive and was not beautiful at all. But even so, it did not stop the mercenaries and armed men from being interested. Some stepped on her chest, some poked her there with guns, some burned her face with cigarettes, and some took out water guns to pour water on her. Yamosa and the FA organization had made them suffer a lot in the past few days. Their hearts were filled with anger, and her body had become a place for them to vent their anger. The Grey sisters and the Russo sisters could not bear to see it, so they walked to the side. They saw some footprints in the snow, some climbing to the top of the mountain, and some leaving the top of the mountain. "Is it him?" Rosa asked. "Who else could it be if not him?" Stella said. Teresa said, "He killed Yamasa. The battle is over, but why did he leave?" It was obvious that he wasn't fighting the FA organization alone in the forest on the left. "He must have helpers," Giovanna said. "He lied to us. He has more than 6 people by his side. No wonder he wasn't worried at all when those 6 people died. It turns out that he was hiding an invisible team." Stella looked very angry. "Will Arthur and our people?" Rosa thought of something, but this thought gave her a fright and she did not dare to continue thinking about it. "Impossible," Giovanna said. "The people led by Arthur are the elites of our Knights of the Hospital. Unless Charlotte's hidden team has more people than them, it's impossible to succeed. But think about it, from the time we told Charlotte about Siberia to when he decided to go to Siberia, it was only a few hours. It's impossible to send an army of dozens of people here in such a short time. Also, we came with him on a Russian transport plane, and there were no other armed men on that plane. Sometimes it was like this. You guessed the right situation, but you didn't want to believe it. He killed Masha, but why did he run away?" Stella looked down the mountain, but she couldn't see Charlotte. "Could it be that he knows that we want to capture him?" Rosa's voice rang out. "How is this possible? If he knew we were going to catch him, would he still have brought us to Siberia?" Giovanna said. "Then why is he running away now?" Teresa's voice. "Yes, why should he?" said Stella. "No one knew. God may know, but he never speaks. What should we do now?" Rosa looked at Giovanna. "Bring some people to look for him." "I'll contact the commander," Giovanna said. "We need new instructions. You guys follow me," Stella said to a few armed men who were discussing something. The armed men walked over, and one of them said, "Where's our bounty?" "I killed 2 people. Where's the $1 million USD bounty?" said one of the armed men. The 4 women were instantly speechless. More mercenaries and armed men walked over. "Where's our bounty?" "I killed one." "I killed 3 of them. Where's our bounty?" "Don't tell me there's no money." "Money? Where's the money?" A large group of mercenaries and armed men, as well as professional killers, surrounded the 4 women. The 4 women had wanted to take these people to chase after Charlotte, but in the blink of an eye, the situation had changed. What they were facing now was not a group of obedient children, but a group of vicious, evil people who only cared about profit. They had promised the bounty, and these people had worked for them. Now it was time to pay, but the money owner had run away. What could they give these people? There were still a few people from the hospital Knights, but it wasn't enough. They stood behind the 4 women, all of them looking very nervous. Without money, these desperados would do anything. "What do you want?" Stella asked nervously. A mercenary suddenly pressed the Gale assault rifle in his hand against her chest. F***CK, I want my bounty. If you don't give it to me, I'll kill you. A hospital Knights subconsciously raised the gun in his hand, but in the next second, dozens of guns were raised at the same time, and the muzzles were pointed at the hospital Knights. "Money. Many of our brothers died in order to get your money. If I don't see the money, you'll all die," said a mercenary leader coldly. "Wait, don't worry." Giovanna forced a smile on her face. "You'll get the money. I promise you on the honor of the hospital Knights. Who cares about your promise? How much is the honor of the hospital Knights worth? Give me the money. F***CK, These B***cheese are playing with us. Kill them. The scene was chaotic. The four women were in a panic. Giovanna couldn't help but roar in her heart, Charlotte, IFU. Don't you just want the money? The money is with Mr. Xia. I'll take you to him, said Stella. Yes, yes, Mr. Xia will pay you. Rosa echoed. Where is Mr. Xia? Asked the mercenary leader. He's… Stella couldn't say it. Where was Charlotte? Who knew? He's in a small wooden house at the foot of the mountain. Come with us. I'll take you to see him. He'll give you the money, said Giovanna as she bit the bullet. Humph. You'd better not lie to us, or you'll be crying. The mercenary pushed Giovanna roughly. Take us to him. The Grey and Russo sisters couldn't help but look at each other. The four women all looked like they wanted to cry. They had dug a hole for Charlotte, but until now they were still in the hole that Charlotte had dug for them. And Charlotte, who was supposed to be in the hole the most, had run so far that he couldn't even be seen. Just as a large group of mercenaries and armed men carried the four women down the mountain, in the forest at the foot of the mountain, Charlotte withdrew his gaze from the top of the mountain, and a sneer appeared at the corner of his mouth. You deserve it. If you didn't trick me, why would I trick you? You can pay the reward you promised yourself. A series of footsteps reached his ears. Looking at the sound, he saw 5 faces. Angumi Khan, Erdemu, Yelena, Siamu and Alessio. All 5 of them were injured, their clothes were ragged, and their hair was unkempt. They looked very tired and embarrassed. In the previous battle, if it weren't for the 5 of them attracting Yamosa's attention and most of the FA organization's firepower, it would have been difficult for him to reach the top of the mountain and kill Yamosa. Half of the credit for killing Yamosa belonged to the 5 of them. Is she dead? Yelena asked. The other 4 also looked at Charlotte, waiting for his answer. She's dead, Charlotte said. Unfortunately, I couldn't get her to tell me where the headquarters of the FA organization is. Yelena said, I'm not surprised about that. People like her aren't afraid of you torturing her at all. She doesn't even fear death. She won't talk, and you really can't do anything to her. Let's not talk about her. Are you all okay? Charlotte asked with concern. We're fine, just some superficial wounds, Alessio said. It's good that you're okay. Let's get out of here, Charlotte said. What about the 4 women? And those mercenaries and armed men, do you want to kill them? Erdemu said. Charlotte shook his head. Let them fight each other. Our mission in Siberia is over. Those 4 women promised those mercenaries and armed men a huge bounty. I really want to know how they're going to pay the bounty. Siamu smiled as he walked. I think they'll have to use their bodies to make up for it, right? I hope those mercenaries and armed men know how to be kind to women, or they'll definitely be ruined. If the Grey Woman and the Russos failed to come up with the promised bounty, the consequences that awaited them would be dire indeed. He did not know why, but when Xia Lei thought of the scene of them being humiliated, his heart felt somewhat uncomfortable. It felt like he had done something bad and his conscience was blaming him. Where is Akiko Tsukino now? Charlotte didn't want to think about the Grey and Russo women. The feeling of guilt made him very uncomfortable. She's at our safe spot with Arthur, Yelena said. Siamu took out an electronic device and looked at it, then said, We're about 3 kilometers away from that place. At this speed, we'll be there in half an hour. Then let's go there now, Charlotte said. The 6 of them walked in the direction of the safe spot. Yelena, who was walking at the back, used a pine branch to clean the footprints left on the snow. The sky was drifting with snow, and the traces left on the snow would soon disappear. At that time, even if the Grey and Russo women convinced the mercenaries and armed men to chase after Charlotte, they would still be nowhere to be found. Half an hour later, the 6 of them arrived in front of a valley. At the entrance of the valley, there was a cabin built by hunters. On the way here, Siamu found the cabin using Google Maps, and according to the location of the landing point, He identified it as the safe spot of the Zodiac Squad. The 6 of them walked to the cabin, and Akiko Tsukino jumped down from a tree. She was wearing a snow camouflage suit, so no one noticed her. As expected of a ninja of the IGA clan, she was best at hiding. "Is it done?" Akiko Tsukino asked. Charlotte nodded gently. "She's dead. Arthur is inside." Akiko Tsukino said, "There was a satellite phone call from Italy, but I didn't pick up." She threw Arthur's satellite phone to Charlotte. Charlotte didn't need to call to know that it was Angelio, the head of the Knights Hospitaller, who called Arthur. Although Yamosa was dead, and the FA organization's training base in Siberia was destroyed, such a loss was not devastating to the FA organization. What worried him was that the Knights Hospitaller had clearly set him up this time. Should he still cooperate with the Knights Hospitaller? Cooperation? What kind of cooperation would it be? Akiko Tsukino opened the door of the cabin. Charlotte walked in and saw Arthur lying on the ground. He was still unconscious and hadn't woken up. "Boss, do you need to give him some medicine to wake him up immediately?" Erdamu asked. Charlotte thought for a moment. "No, don't wake him up first." After a pause, he said, "Do any of you have a communicator of the Knights Hospitaller?" Yelena threw a communicator to Charlotte. "I knew you couldn't bear to see those 4 women being humiliated by those mercenaries and armed men. I've already prepared it for you." Charlotte couldn't help but smile bitterly. He really couldn't bear to see those 4 women being humiliated or even killed by those mercenaries and armed men. But his reluctance was only one of the reasons. In addition, there was another reason, and that was, the FA organization had not been eliminated yet. He had to use the power of the Knights Hospitaller, and now was not the time to be enemies with the other party. But he didn't bother to explain the reason to Yelena because some things would only get worse. Chapter 799. The cabin was getting closer and closer. The women from the Gray family and the Russo family were also getting more and more nervous. "What should we do?" Stella's voice sounded like she was about to cry. "That guy is definitely not in the cabin. How are we going to explain to those guys behind us? They want money, not an explanation." Rosa bit her lip. "That guy is really too hateful. How can he leave us behind and let us women face this group of evildoers who are worse than beasts? He will go to hell, he will definitely go to hell." "Enough," Giovanna said. "To him, aren't we also very hateful people? We tricked him into coming to Siberia, and we have been tricking him from the beginning. Now that he is treating us like this, we have nothing to complain about. This is God's punishment for us, we should not have any complaints." "Even at this time, you can still think like this?" Teresa said anxiously. "Later, if we can't take out the money, how will these people deal with us? I'd rather die than let those guys touch my body. Yes, we are knights of the hospital, we are not whores. Later, if they want me to humiliate us, we will commit suicide together," Rosa said. Stella crossed her hands and said sadly, "Guard the faith, help the suffering." The other 3 women also crossed their hands. "Guard the faith, help the suffering." A mercenary pushed open the door of the cabin. The small wooden hut was empty. Not to mention Xiaolei, the investor, there wasn't even a mouse in sight. The mercenary who pushed open the door immediately became angry. He turned around and roared at the 4 women, "Damn, you dare to lie to us! Kill these 4 stinking bitches!" Someone shouted, "Our people can't die in vain. Their wives and children should get compensation," someone said as he pulled the bolt of his gun and prepared to shoot. "If we just kill them like this, it will be too easy on them. Let's play first, then kill them after we have enough fun. Yes, we can't let them off so easily. I want them to have a taste of my big black dick. Damn. In order to get their money, I almost died on the battlefield. I want to play with all the holes on their bodies." The scene suddenly went out of control, and someone even rushed up to tear the clothes of the 4 women. Although the 4 women had the determination to protect their chastity with their lives, who could truly face death calmly and easily kill themselves. Even if they really did it and committed suicide, they knew very well that these guys would still not let them go and would still humiliate them. Yamosa was an example. Whenever they thought about what these people had done to her, they would feel disgusted and horrified. "Get out of my way!" In the chaos, Giovanna suddenly knocked away a mercenary who was touching her chest. "Damn it! How dare you!" The mercenary who was knocked away flew into a rage. He pulled out a military knife and rushed towards Giovanna. Giovanna raised her hand. In her hand was a grenade. The safety of the grenade had been removed. The knife-wielding mercenary quickly retreated. Voila! A large group of mercenaries and armed men raised their guns and aimed at Giovanna and the other 3 women. "Come over!" Giovanna's face was filled with a bitter smile. Her eyes were filled with unwillingness and despair. Rosa, Stella, and Teresa moved to Giovanna's side. The 4 women formed a circle. Giovanna's hand was tightly holding the safety of the grenade. As long as she let go, the 4 of them would be blown to pieces. This was the only way that these inhumane and vicious people would not violate their corpses. However, it was difficult for her to let go of such a simple thing. "Damn it!" the leader of the mercenaries scolded. "You crazy woman, put that grenade down!" "Get lost!" Giovanna roared crazily. "Otherwise, I will blow you up. Who the hell are you trying to fool?" The leader of the mercenaries sneered. "In the teachings of your Catholic Church, suicide is not allowed. The souls of those who commit suicide cannot be saved. They do not have the right to go to heaven. You will go to hell. Do you want to go to hell?" The women from the Gray family and Russo family were ice-cold. They had believed in the teachings since they were young. They had trained hard in order to save their souls so that they could go to heaven to serve God. However, once they committed suicide, their beliefs and everything they had done would be meaningless. "Ha ha ha!" The leader of the mercenaries laughed. "People like you are really funny. Even if you die, you have no choice. Is the God you believe in so troublesome? He is not even willing to give you the freedom to die?" "Shut up!" Giovanna roared. She did not allow anyone to question her belief. She did not allow anyone to blaspheme her God. "You are the one who should shut up. You lying bitch!" An armed man scolded. "You cannot commit suicide. Throw away that grenade and play with us. When we are done playing with you, we will kill you. That way, you will be able to go to heaven." "Ah!" One of the mercenaries laughed exaggeratedly. The most painful thing in the world was not facing death. It was when you wanted to die, but you had no choice. The women from the Gray family and Russo family were feeling this way. Give up and commit suicide. It was better to die than to live. Commit suicide. Go against your belief. Your soul will go to hell. No matter which outcome it was, it would be extremely painful for them, and it was extremely difficult to make a choice between these 2 choices. "Charlotte!" "Ah!" Giovanna suddenly roared crazily. "I will wait for you in hell." This was a signal that she had made her choice. The other 3 women closed their eyes, but tears flowed out from the corners of their eyes. No one was willing to die, even if it was for their beliefs or for their chastity. But just as Giovanna was about to let go, her communicator suddenly beeped, accompanied by a slight vibration. Giovanna was stunned for a moment. The armed members of the Hospital Knights Templar were already under the control of the mercenaries and armed men, so it was impossible for them to contact her through the communication device. But other than the armed members of the Hospital Knights Templar, who else would contact her at this time? The other 3 women were also stunned. Then, they looked at Giovanna. "Who is it?" Stella's voice was heard. Could it be? Rosa did not say the name because she felt that it was impossible. "Quick, answer it," Teresa urged. No matter who it was, He had given them a glimmer of hope. Listen! The leader of the mercenaries shouted. Amplify the voice. Giovanna took out her communicator and pressed the answer button. At the same time, she amplified her voice. Who is it? Yes, yes. The voice of a man clearing his throat came from the communicator. My voice is so magnetic and melodious. Can't you tell? It's you. Giovanna felt as if her foot had been stepped on by a horse. She suddenly became agitated. You bastard! Coward! Liar! You! It was Charlotte's voice. He interrupted Giovanna's words. Hee, it seems that you don't want to hear my voice. All right then, we won't be contacting each other. Bye. Wait. Giovanna suddenly became quiet. We are in a terrible situation now. I am in a bad mood. What does that have to do with me? You. Giovanna almost cursed again. But the words that came out of her mouth were, I'm sorry. I apologize to you. What did you say? I can't hear you. It was Charlotte's voice. I'm sorry. Giovanna roared at the communicator. If Charlotte was in front of her, based on her current emotions, she might have enjoyed the grenade in her hand with Charlotte. Are you the only one apologizing to me? That's not enough. I'm sorry. Teresa moved closer to the communicator and said. When she said this, she gritted her teeth. I'm sorry, Rosa said angrily. She wanted to stab Charlotte, not apologize. I'm sorry. Stella's voice was filled with unwillingness. I am a soft-hearted person. All right, since you have already apologized to me, I will forgive you. Tell me, what trouble did you encounter? Is there anything I can help with? Hearing this, any woman would have the urge to rush in front of him, knock him to the ground, and step on his D**CK with their high heels. They were already in a life-and-death situation, but that man still had the mood to tease them. This was simply unforgivable. Bastard, do you know what situation we are in? Teresa said angrily. Money. Give those people money. Is this Miss Stella talking to me? I seem to have heard you call me a bastard. Can you say it again for me to hear? Stella opened her mouth, but before the word bastard could leave her mouth, Teresa pinched her hard on the butt. Teresa moved closer to Stella's ear and said anxiously, Are you trying to kill us all? Quickly apologize to him. Only he can save us. I don't want to go to hell. Giovanna also lowered her voice. Think about the consequences if he doesn't help us. If Charlotte didn't help them, they would either commit suicide, carry their faith, and fall into hell. Or they would be toyed to death by this group of villains. She didn't even dare to think about the process. I'm sorry, Stella said. I only heard pride in your apology. There is no sincerity at all. Charlotte's voice was heard. I want you to tell me that you are my slave. And swear to me that you will never lie to me again and will follow me for eternity. Then I will help you solve your problem. You. Stella was almost tortured to tears. Do as he says. Without waiting for the other three women to say anything, the leader of the mercenaries berated. The sound of guns being raised could be heard. Stella looked at the other three women. She saw the desire in their eyes. Her legs suddenly went soft. She knelt on the ground and said with a trembling voice, I am your slave. I swear to you with the glory of a knight that I will never lie to you again. I will follow you for eternity. Very good. Charlotte's voice was heard. Giovanna, Teresa, Rosa, what are you waiting for? Do you think he is the only one who did wrong? Giovanna, Rosa, and Teresa looked at each other. The three women braced themselves and knelt down, apologized, and swore. All right, according to your tradition, you are now my knights. Your trouble is my trouble. Give the communicator to their leader. I will help you solve your problem. Giovanna handed the communicator to the leader of the mercenaries. Mr. Xia, hello. The leader of the mercenaries had a flattering smile on his face. I want to talk to you about the bounty. $3 million. If you agree, give me your account number. If you don't, you can shoot. That's too little. Then shoot. The leader of the mercenaries was speechless. My friend, you have to look further. If you cooperate with me, you will have plenty of opportunities to make money. This won't be the last time. And with the price I am offering, it is a reasonable price. If you really want the bounty that my knights promised, then I don't want to talk. I believe that no one in this world is willing to give you that much money, unless he is a fool. Okay, deal. The leader of the mercenaries accepted Charlotte's conditions. Killing these 4 women was equivalent to burning $3 million. That was something only a fool would do. Play with them? Even if they were inlaid with diamonds, he felt that it was too expensive. Moreover, were the saintesses of the Knights Hospitaller interesting? He did not want them to chant scriptures under him when he was having fun. The 4 women finally heaved a sigh of relief. Boom! The grenade hit the ground. F***ck. The leader of the mercenaries kicked the grenade away. Everyone fell to the ground. Boom! The grenade exploded on the surface of the lake. A fish flew out of the hole in the ice. Giovanna was stunned for a while before she said, "Serene." No one paid attention to her. Chapter 800. Night fell early. The cold wind blew, and large snowflakes danced in the sky. The bodies abandoned in the forest would eventually be covered, and the living would continue. Arthur woke up slowly. He saw the dark roof and the burning fireplace. The cabin was filled with a strange smell. It smelled like a woman's perfume, but he did not see any perfume bottles, nor did he see any women. He propped himself up with his hands. He wanted to get up from the simple and crude bed, but before he could get up, he fell back down heavily. His head was dizzy, as if he was drunk. His head was heavy and his feet were light. His reaction was slow and he saw double. He shook his head hard, trying to wake himself up, but he did not. The feeling of dizziness became stronger and stronger. But even in such a bad state, he still remembered what had happened. He received Giovanna's call, and then he brought people to catch Charlotte. Then he was ambushed by Charlotte's men in the forest, and everyone except him died. Damn it, that guy has been lying to me from the beginning. He's dead. A wave of hatred rose in his heart, and then he shook his head hard. But he found that his brain was not listening to him. The images he had just recalled became blurry, and some inexplicable images appeared in his mind again. He saw Jesus nailed to the cross, and then he saw the horseman of the apocalypse riding a red horse, whoosh! Suddenly, the sound of a horse panting came from outside the door. The door of the cabin suddenly opened, and a strong light shone in from the door. It was accompanied by the clashing of cold weapons and the roars of soldiers. It gave people the feeling that there was a battlefield behind the strong light, and people were fighting on the battlefield. "Guard the faith, help the suffering," someone said. Arthur subconsciously chanted, "Guard the faith, help the suffering." He wanted to raise his hand and draw a cross, but his body did not have the slightest bit of strength. He could not even raise his hand. Someone's voice came from the blinding light again. "Look, that's the horseman riding a red horse. He is like a flame in the wind. He entered the holy city of Jerusalem. Who is he chasing? I can't see. His armor fell off." There was a cacophony of voices speaking in Italian, sounding very jumbled and nervous. Arthur wanted to get up and take a look, but he couldn't do it at all. At this moment, a person walked out of the blinding light. He was tall, about 2.5 meters tall. He held a large sword in his hand. The sword was at least as tall as a person and looked like a tree. He was wearing a very strange robe, as if it was made from a whole sheet, and it looked very big. His Excellency had a big sword and big clothes. The person who walked out of the front light gave off an intense feeling that he was big. He was so big that it was beyond imagination. He was so big that people felt that he was the legendary Titan race. The giant with the big sword seemed to want to walk into the hut, but the door was too small. Unless he tore it down, he could not enter the hut. Arthur looked at the giant at the door, dumbfounded. He vaguely saw something red behind the giant. He thought it was a horse, but he also thought it was a flame. In fact, this did not prevent him from associating the giant in front of him with the horseman of the apocalypse, who rode a red horse and symbolized war and destruction. This was because he had just heard the conversation in Italian, his huge longsword, and the red horse behind him. Seeing the horseman of the apocalypse was undoubtedly a miracle for a Catholic. Arthur struggled to get up from the bed again, and then knelt before the horseman of the apocalypse on the red horse. However, even in front of the horseman of the apocalypse, he still did not have the slightest bit of strength. "You sinner!" The horseman on the red horse suddenly spoke in standard Italian. His voice was surprisingly loud. "The devil destroyed your kingdom. I fought for you. I lost my armor and could not return to the temple in heaven. It's been almost 1,000 years. When will you return my armor to me? I've lost my patience." "God!" Arthur exclaimed. "I'm your devout believer. I'm your most loyal servant. We've been looking for your armor, and we're only missing the last piece. Where did you put my armor?" The voice of the horseman on the red horse was very majestic. "Malta, the Holy Palace. How can I get my armor back? Angilio's eye and key. Why is my armor still missing the last piece?" Arthur said excitedly. "We've been looking for the fragments of the armor. In the past long years, we've found one fragment after another. We pieced it together, and now we're only missing the last piece. It's in the hands of a Chinese, a despicable heathen. He killed our horsemen and destroyed our agreement. God, if you can help me catch him, I can get the last piece, and I will return the complete armor." "Do you want to kill him?" "Yes, I want to kill him. I'll catch him. I'll kill him with my own hands and destroy his kingdom. But now you have to tell me, where is your holy palace on the island of Malta?" "My God! It's in the Cross Mountains near the sea, and the holy palace is in that mountain. Our ancestors built the holy palace to store your armor and the materials for the restoration of the kingdom. The Knights Hospitaller once built a kingdom on the island of Malta, but it was later defeated by Turkey. But before that, the island of Malta was indeed the territory of the Knights Hospitaller. It was actually very easy for the Knights Hospitaller to build a secret building on the island of Malta. In fact, to this day, there are still many traces of the Knights Hospitaller's rule on the island of Malta, and those places have almost become tourist attractions on the island of Malta. How many people have you sent to protect the Holy Palace and my armor?" 10 squads of knights, 100 knights, and 10 paladins. They are the most powerful warriors, the most loyal servants of God. My God, if thou comest before them, they will worship thee. And if the enemy invades, they will crush the enemy's body. The knight on the red horse was silent for a moment and then said, "You are very loyal, my slave. As a reward, I have opened the way to heaven for you. Go to heaven, my slave." "My God, I haven't gotten the last piece of armor for you. I can't go to heaven yet. Let me get the last piece for you before I go to heaven." "No need, I'll get it myself. I have already opened the way to heaven for you. Go on your way." "My God, where is the way? How do I get up there?" The knight on the red horse suddenly pulled out a pistol and pointed the muzzle at Arthur's head. "My God, do you also use guns?" Arthur looked very surprised. Bang! As soon as his voice fell, the pistol made a gunshot, and a bullet smashed straight into his head. This was the way to the kingdom of heaven. It was very simple to go up. One bullet would know you. The blinding light disappeared. The giant standing at the door of the cabin suddenly became shorter. If Arthur were still alive, he would have seen that the horseman of the apocalypse on the red horse he worshipped was actually Xiao Lei standing on a stool. The red horse behind him was not a red horse, but a wooden frame in the shape of a horse, draped with a layer of red cloth. Such a clumsy performance would not be easy to fool even a child, but it was no problem to fool a delirious fanatic. He's dead. Akiko Tsukino walked out from behind the wall of the cabin. Behind her were Yelena and Gyumi-kan, Sayamu, Erdamu, and Alessio. The voices of the Crusaders just now were all coming from their mouth. I don't want to kill him either, but he must die, Charlotte said. Arthur was the only one who knew that it was the Zodiac squad that killed the 30 elites of the Knights of the Hospital. His survival was a huge hidden danger. What do we do next? Yelena's voice was heard. Charlotte said, You guys get rid of his body. I'll go to the cabin by the lake. Boss. Erdamu said worriedly, although you helped those 4 women solve their problems, they are still members of the Knights of the Hospital, and they are also fanatic believers. It's hard to guarantee that they won't betray you for the sake of their faith. It's actually very dangerous for you to go there now. Charlotte smiled. I've thought about this a long time ago, and I'm not naive enough to believe that they are already my knights. Then why do you still want to go back? Akiko Tsukino asked. Charlotte said, I have to go back. There must be an explanation for Arthur's death. I can't let them suspect that I did it. In a sense, you guys are already dead, so you guys can't show up with me now. But if you go back alone, what if those mercenaries and armed men want to deal with you? Sayamu said. Charlotte said, You don't have to worry about this at all. Arthur is dead, and most of the Knights of the Hospital are also dead. Only those 4 women and a few armed men of the Knights of the Hospital are left. They can't threaten me at all. I'm the one who gave them the money, and those mercenaries and armed men are more willing to listen to me than those 4 women. And then? Akiko Tsukino asked. I'll retreat with those 4 women. You guys don't show up for the time being. Charlotte looked at Yelena. From now on, you're no longer my secretary. You have to walk from the sunlight into the darkness until I finish what I want to do. Yelena nodded. Let's meet in China, Charlotte said as he left the cabin. The 6 members of the Zodiac squad watched as Charlotte gradually walked away in the snow. What do you think Boss wants to do? Alessio broke the silence. I know you want to say that he wants to pick up those 4 women. Yelena curled up the corner of her mouth. Many people think that Boss is a lustful person, but I know that's not true. Boss has never touched those 4 women. Everything he did was to maintain the cooperative relationship with the Knights of the Hospital, and he also wants to use the Knights of the Hospital to deal with the FA organization. Okay, stop guessing Boss's mind. He's the smartest person I've ever met. If his mind was so easy to guess, then he wouldn't be our boss. What we have to do is very simple. Deal with the bodies and then go back to China. Erdamu clapped his hands. Time to work. Who's going to carry the bodies out? The other 5 people looked at Erdamu. Erdamutu was immediately stunned on the spot. No way? Did you guys discuss this in advance? No one paid attention to him. Chapter 801. A large bonfire was lit in the open space in front of the cabin by the lake, and the bear that had been killed by the FA organization became dinner. The surviving mercenaries and armed men, as well as the few professional killers, enjoyed the roasted bear meat and vodka. Some sang, some danced, but no one remembered their dead companions. When they asked for the bounty, they still remembered their dead companions, as well as their wives and children. They kept saying that they would give a pension to the widows of their dead companions, but who would remember that now? For the living, the more of their dead companions the better, because the more people who died, the more money they could get. The women of the Gray family and the Russo family stayed in the cabin, not daring to go out. It wasn't that the mercenaries and armed men restricted their freedom, but that the 4 women were facing a large group of drunkards, and their bodies were there to lure the criminals to commit crimes. Who was to say that the thugs didn't want to do something to them under the influence of alcohol? Do you think that guy will come back? Rosa broke the silence in the cabin. Stella said, Do you still need to ask? He will never come back. Why? Teresa said, He paid those guys $3 million to save us. That's $3 million. Most people can't earn that much money in their entire lives. If he won't come back, why would he pay so much money for us? Yes, I thought he wouldn't pay that money, but he did, said Giovanna. He's an arms dealer. That money is nothing to him. I think he paid the bounty because he felt guilty, said Stella. I even suspect that the disappearance of the Grand Knight has something to do with him. Don't you think it's strange? I have some doubts too, but didn't I say that? To kill so many people, he must have hidden an army of more than 50 people, but that's impossible, said Giovanna. All right, stop talking, said Teresa. Teresa said, I'm thinking about something else now, and it's something we have to face. What do you mean? Stella looked at Teresa. You're the smartest among the four of us. Don't you know what I'm talking about? Teresa said, We have sworn to him. According to the ancient tradition of chivalry, we are already his knights. Loyalty, bravery, and sacrifice are the qualities of a knight. Should we be loyal, brave, and sacrifice to him in the future? Teresa, he was threatening us, Stella said. We are knights of the hospital, not that guy's knights. He's not even a Catholic. How can we be loyal to him? Not to mention fighting and dying for him. But we kneel before him and swear to him, according to our tradition, that we are his knights. If we break our vows, what is the difference between us and those who have no faith? Teresa said. Stella frowned. Teresa, are you saying that because he did that to you? He violated your body, but you liked him, didn't you? Teresa immediately got angry. What nonsense are you talking about? Say it again. I want to duel with you. Enough, all of you, shut up. Giovanna was annoyed by the noise. How about this, let's vote by a show of hands. Those who agree to be her knights raise their hands, and those who disagree don't. I agree. If we can even abandon the spirit of chivalry, then what kind of knights are we? Teresa raised her hand. Stella didn't raise her hand. Giovanna had already raised her hand, but seeing that Stella didn't raise her hand, she put it down again. She was Stella's older sister. She had to stand on the same side as her younger sister. She and Stella represented the interests of the Grey family. Rosa didn't want to raise her hand, but seeing her younger sister raise her hand, she could only raise her hand in agreement. She and Teresa represented the interests of the Russo family. This was a very funny situation. There were two pairs of twin sisters, and each pair had someone who agreed and disagreed. In fact, if Giovanna and Teresa became a pair of twin sisters, and if Rosa and Stella became another pair of twin sisters, then this camp would be even more opposed. Humph! Stella snorted coldly. Teresa, let's make a bet. Charlotte won't come. Maybe he's on a plane to China right now. And you, a woman from the Russo family, are arguing with me about the tradition and spirit of chivalry. Don't you think that your choice is wrong? Is it ridiculous? What if he comes? Teresa said. Will you keep your oath and be his knight? If he comes, I will keep my oath and be his knight, Stella said. However, if he doesn't come, then you have to steal our sacred relic from him. Do you dare to make this bet with me? I agree. Teresa agreed without hesitation. Rosa said anxiously, Idiot, you have to think clearly about the consequences of losing the bet. How are you going to steal our sacred relic from Charlotte? That's almost impossible. Teresa bit her lip. I will find a way. Besides, I might not necessarily lose. That's right, you will find a way, Stella said mockingly. As that guy's knight, you have a lot of opportunities to come into contact with him. You can even sleep with him. You, Teresa pounced forward. The two women grabbed each other, and the other two hurriedly tried to mediate. The small wooden house immediately became a mess. Only women could understand a woman's world. But at this time, someone's greeting and laughter came from outside the door. Wow! It was a man's voice, and it sounded very exaggerated. My friends, you guys didn't even call me when you had a bonfire party. Aren't you guys too much? The four women in the small wooden house suddenly quieted down and looked at each other. This voice was so familiar to them that they could recognize it even if they turned into ashes. It was Charlotte. Ha ha. The voice of the mercenary leader said, "Mr. Xia, where did you come from? What happened? Do you know that we were all very worried about you? We almost searched the area within a radius of 50 kilometers. We almost took the train to Kremlin Palace to find you." Charlotte's voice. "The FA organization also has a secret force. They killed Mr. Arthur and Mr. Arthur's people. I went to chase them, but they escaped." "Is this true?" The voice of the mercenary leader sounded very surprised. "Of course it's true. Do I need to swear?" Charlotte's voice. "Mr. Xia, we are people abandoned by God. We have no faith. Oaths are worthless to us. We don't care whether Arthur is dead or alive. We only care about you. We are happy that you are alive." "Ah!" The voice of the mercenary leader said. "Mr. Xia, you are a very generous person. It is a very pleasant thing to work with you." The leader of an armed group said. Charlotte's voice. "Money is not a big deal. It's the death of so many of my brothers that hurts me. Mr. Arthur was a good friend of mine, and even he died. I'm really sad." "Mr. Xia, don't be sad. Let's have a drink. Wine can make you forget the pain." "Mr. Xia, I also propose a toast to you. Mr. Xia, please have a piece of bear meat." "My friend, why did you give me the bear penis?" Ha ha ha. In the small wooden house, the four women frowned. "That guy really came back," Giovanna said. "I told you that he can't be the person who killed our 30 elites, nor is he the person who killed Arthur." Stella's face was filled with displeasure. "Humph! Stella, don't forget our bet," Teresa said. Stella just rolled her eyes at Teresa and didn't say anything. "Mr. Xia, drink some more. This is a good vodka." Someone said. "Thank you, I can't drink any more. If I drink any more, I will be drunk. I have to go see my people." Charlotte said. "Mr. Xia, don't worry. We didn't touch those four women." Someone said. The sound of footsteps could be heard. The four women looked at the door of the small wooden house together. They didn't know why, even though they knew that it was Charlotte outside the door, but they seemed very nervous. In the past, they and Charlotte had an opposing relationship, but now their opposing relationship with Charlotte had become blurred, and another kind of unclear relationship had become clear. The door of the small wooden house opened, and Charlotte appeared at the door. He only paused for a moment before entering the room and closing the door behind him. The four women looked at him, but none of them greeted him. Charlotte took off his coat, then held it and said, "My knights, won't anyone come and help me get my clothes? We are knights, but we are not your servants," Stella said. Teresa hesitated for a moment, then walked up to Charlotte, took his coat, and hung it on an iron nail behind the door. Charlotte smiled. "Thank you." Teresa just nodded and didn't say anything. It would be a very long and difficult process to subdue these four goblins, but Charlotte wasn't in a hurry. He sat down on a chair. "I feel very sad that Mr. Arthur is dead." Stella interrupted and said, "I don't feel the slightest bit of sadness from you. Just now you were talking, laughing, drinking, and eating with those scum outside." Charlotte didn't care. "I was socializing. My sadness is hidden in my heart. You just can't see it." Stella. "Okay, let's get down to business." Charlotte said, "Mr. Arthur is dead. I don't know about your retreat plan. When are you going to activate it?" Giovanna said, "Arthur used that computer to contact the headquarters. That computer was taken away by those mercenaries, so we can't get in touch with the headquarters at all. Didn't anyone from the headquarters of the Knights Hospitaller contact you? The four women shook their heads in unison. Go and get that computer back for us. We'll get in touch with the headquarters. They'll send someone to pick us up, Stella said. Ha ha. Charlotte couldn't help but laugh. I'm not going to take a car or a plane back for you Knights Hospitaller. I'm alone now, and I don't trust you. I'll go back my way. Are you going to ski back? Stella said sarcastically. Charlotte took out a satellite phone, dialed a number, and said in Russian, Hello, Mr. Ivanov. How about $1 million for another flight? All right, call me when you've confirmed the landing location. The call ended. The four women looked at Charlotte strangely. Why are you looking at me like that? Charlotte shrugged. Is no one going to pour me a glass of water? Well, I want hot water. The four women. Chapter 802. The mission in Siberia was over. The FA organization's training base in Siberia was completely destroyed, and Yamosa was killed. For Charlotte, his goal had been achieved. Not only did he avenge Amanda, Pu Taiyong, and the other two, but he also weakened the strength of the FA organization and the Knights Hospitaller. The current result was actually the best result for him. An Ilyushin IL-76 swept across the sky of Siberia, flying in the direction of the capital of China. The surviving mercenaries, militants, and killers were not on this plane. They were unwilling to follow Charlotte to China. For them, China was actually a forbidden land. They did not want to work hard to earn money but have no life to spend it. They would leave Siberia in their own way, and Charlotte was eager to do so. He did not want to have too much contact with those people. This time, if it were not for the fact that Yamosa was in Siberia, and he wanted to get information about the holy relic from Arthur, he would never have gone to southern Siberia. Arthur could not have lied to me in that situation. It seems that there really is a set of armor, and he is hiding in the holy palace of the Cross Mountain on the island of Malta. The Knights Hospitaller do not know its secret and have always regarded it as the armor of the horsemen of the apocalypse on the red horse. Now that I know its whereabouts, how can I steal it from the holy palace? Charlotte secretly pondered in his heart, and from the corner of his eyes, he also moved to the women of the Grey family and the Russo family sitting opposite him. To go to Malta, the pass copied from Arthur was obviously not enough. He needed help, and it had to be help that could help him sneak into the holy palace. Who else could it be other than the four women in front of him? The four women stared at Charlotte. No one spoke, and all of them looked very quiet, but only God knew what they were thinking. How can I make these four women really swear loyalty to me and work for me instead of the Knights Hospitaller? Charlotte began to think about new things in his heart. He no longer looked at the four women out of the corner of his eyes. He stared at them. Stella frowned and subconsciously closed her legs, afraid that she would be exposed under her skirt. The four of them changed out of the combat uniforms they had worn in Siberia and into the stewardess uniforms provided by the Russians. This was exactly what she was worried about. Charlotte's eyes were like an eagle's eyes. An eagle could see a rabbit running in the grass from hundreds of meters in the air. How could Charlotte not see the grass under her skirt? Therefore, they had to be on guard. She was well prepared, but she didn't know that the man who was looking at her was counting something in boredom. 1, 2. 58, this one doesn't count, it's forked, 58. Why is it so hard to count? He's comparable to Gu Qin. What are you mumbling about? Stella asked suspiciously. I'm thinking about a question. Charlotte smiled but didn't say anything. What's the question? Giovanna asked. How much do the Knights Hospitaller pay you every month? Charlotte asked tentatively. We don't have a salary, we fight for our faith, Stella said with a righteous face. You really don't have a salary? Charlotte looked very surprised. The other three women shook their heads together. Then what do you use to buy clothes? Cosmetics? You don't have to worry about that, Stella said angrily. A smirk appeared on Charlotte's face. Well, I'll pretend that you don't need to buy clothes and cosmetics. Other believers will donate them to you. But what about sanitary pads? Believers can't donate sanitary pads to you, right? If there are no donations and you don't have a salary to buy them, how do you solve the problem? The four women's faces turned red. How shameless and obscene would a man have to be to discuss sanitary pads with them? Go to hell. Stella couldn't stand it anymore and wanted to get up and pounce on Charlotte. The other three women grabbed her. How about this? I'll give you a salary of $100,000 a month. You can use it to buy beautiful clothes and the best cosmetic. How about that? You can't come to this world for nothing. You're so beautiful, how can you not experience the best life? Charlotte said. Giovanna said, we have our faith. If you want to buy us with money, that's a big mistake. Charlotte said, you're my knights and I'm your boss. I'm giving you a salary. What's wrong with that? The four women were silent for a moment. To be honest, a salary of $100,000 a month was simply unthinkable for them, who didn't love money in this world. It would be a lie to say that they weren't tempted. Nowadays, there were many monks, Taoists, and priests in this world who made money against their conscience. Everything in this world had a price, including faith and loyalty. Seeing that the four women were tempted, Charlotte's heart skipped a beat. He continued to persuade them, you're so young. Don't you want to drive expensive sports cars, drink the best wine, and live in the best sea view house? You can also. Enough! Giovanna didn't wait for Charlotte to finish and interrupted him. We don't want your money, and you can't use your money to buy us. We're different from those mercenaries. You can buy them with money, but we can't. Right? Please don't use your money to insult us, Teresa said. Charlotte cursed in his heart, damn retard. For him, if it was a problem that could be solved with money, then it wasn't a problem. But if it couldn't be solved with money, then the problem would be troublesome. You swore an oath to me to become my knights. If you don't work for me, then what kind of knights are you? Charlotte said. I can hang your clothes, Teresa said. I can pour you water, Rosa said. I can make you breakfast, Giovanna said. Stella kept her mouth shut and didn't say anything. She didn't seem to be willing to help Charlotte with even a small matter. Charlotte didn't let her go. He smiled and said, Stella, the three of them have found their own jobs, but you haven't. How about I arrange one for you? You can warm my bed, how about that? You. Stella was immediately angry. Charlotte was also angry in his heart. He said in his heart, you knelt down and swore to become my knight, but you're only willing to hang my clothes, pour me water, and make me breakfast. Damn, are you kidding me? Fine, if you want to play, then I'll play with you. You refuse a toast only to drink a forfeit. At this time, the voice of the captain, Ivanov, came from the speakers in the cabin. Ladies and gentlemen, we've entered China's airspace. The four women exchanged glances. From their expressions, it could be seen that they didn't want to return to China. Charlotte grabbed a communicator hanging on the bulkhead and said in Russian, Mr. Ivanov, thank you for your hard work. Please land at Kyoto International Airport as planned. No problem, Mr. Xia. Next time you need something like this, please take care of me. My crew and I will be at your service at any time, Ivanov said. Hee, of course. Charlotte smiled. Oh, by the way, Mr. Xia, you can turn on your phone. This is a military plane. Your phone's signal can't affect the plane's avionics system. Okay, I got it. Charlotte hung the communicator back on the bulkhead, then he took out his two phones and woke them up. There were several missed calls on the phone used for daily communication, and the missed calls were all from Wei Guani's number. Wei Guani was Peaceful's attending doctor. Because of this, Charlotte couldn't help but call Wei Guani back. Hello? Is this Dr. Wei? I'm Charlotte. Oh, hello, Mr. Xia. I called you a few times, but your phone was turned off, Wei Guani said. What is it? Just say it. It's like this. I have good news for you. Charlotte was very anxious. It's peaceful. Yes, it's Dr. Ning. Wei Guani smiled and said, she suddenly woke up this morning. The kind of waking up that I'm talking about is the kind of waking up that a normal person would have. Without waiting for Wei Guani to finish, Xia Lei interrupted. Could it be that she drew something again? No. She didn't draw anything this time. What I mean is, she's cured. Wei Guani laughed. She's cured? This was good news, but the joy in Charlotte's heart was overshadowed by surprise. He couldn't laugh. If Peaceful was really cured, then she would be the first person to recover after coming into contact with the ancient alloy. What did this mean? Yes, she has recovered. Wei Guani's voice said. The nurse was the first to find out. After she woke up, she said she was a little hungry, so she borrowed the nurse's phone. But according to our rules here, she and the team of experts are not allowed to contact the outside world, so the nurse didn't give it to her. Later, the nurse told me the situation. I talked to her, and I found that her thinking was normal. Later, I gave her a test, and all the indicators are normal. What about the other experts? What's the situation? The situation of those experts is still very bad. One of them even what? According to his physical condition, I estimate that he has at most 1 week left to live. Charlotte was confused. Oh, by the way, Dr. Ning asked me to tell you that she wants to see you. Charlotte looked at the watch on his wrist. I'll be there in 3 hours. Okay, then I won't disturb you anymore. Goodbye, Mr. Xia. Goodbye. Xia Lei hung up the phone and fell into deep thought again. He knew Peaceful's condition very well. Wei Guani had once told him that there was almost no possibility of a cure. Her situation was the same, and so were the other experts who had gone crazy. Why didn't the others get better, and even get worse, but she recovered? He didn't know why, but he felt that this matter was very strange. It was a sign, but the feeling was very vague. He couldn't figure it out. Peaceful has recovered. She is a poor woman. When I see her, I have to ask her if she needs any help. If I can help her, I will try my best to help her. He thought to himself. His desire to see Peaceful became more and more urgent. The women from the Gray and Russo families kept staring at Charlotte. Their eyes were full of suspicion. Unfortunately, Chinese was their obstacle. They had no idea who Charlotte was talking to on the phone or what they said. Mr. Xia, who called? Giovanna asked in Italian. Charlotte moved his gaze to the 4 women. Do I need to tell you who I called? The 4 women were speechless. When Charlotte didn't take them seriously, it didn't feel good. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Nights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.